I began writing The Wheel of Time because a great many notions had been bouncing around inside my head and they started to coalesce. I wondered what it was really like to be tapped on the shoulder and told, "You were born to be the savior of mankind." I felt that because America is a melting pot, I had at least some right to mine the mythologies of any nation that is represented in the United States. There are elements that come out of religious books, and there are elements that come out of mythologies as well. I thought I had put a bit of foreshadowing for something of the future here, and it doesn't come across clearly. I must do something about that in the next book to make sure that I do have that foreshadowing.
Last time on
Revisiting Eye of the World.
A phenomenal series with a ton of, not only is it a great story, but it's also has a ton of great messaging in it.
Well done on that opening, though. That was.
It was all you.
That was, I didn't want to relive that gross stuff, but man.
But yeah, I rock the shades to protect myself from the sun, so no hat required.
I always thought you wore the shades to protect other people.
That's true. It's anyone who has gone over to OBG70's D&D stream with kind of a group of us. Lady Balefire's character, such low charisma, she has to wear a helmet because if she took her helmet off, the ugliness would just kill everyone. Similar with the sunglasses. Or, depending on which narrative you like better, I could be a member of the X-Men.
Lady Balefire's favorite character of all time, the goat, her goat. I'll say that. But we do see Logain.
I'm going to say something that is going to get her to come to your comment section if she watches this video and just Balefire everything. I don't like Logain.
Okay. This is Pips's thing.
I'm trying to get a professor from the University of South Dakota who posted a blog entry defending the show to come on and explain some of his dog shit opinions.
I'm sure calling them dog shit opinions, I'm sure it's gonna help encourage him to come.
Like equivalent to a certain Tolkien professor.
And now the conclusion.
Welcome to the finale of Revisiting Eye of the World, and it's been a long road, but we managed to get here. So, everybody, welcome. I'm Brian, Nerdporeal Lifeform, and I've actually really enjoyed reading Eye of the World this second time, and because of that, I definitely want to go forward reading more of the series. So I can't wait to get to the Great Hunt and everything. So. Before I bring the panelists in, I just want to say hello to whoever's in the chat right now. So Jacob Ironside, he says, Merry Christmas. Kind of early for that, but thank you. Likewise. Keely Chow, how you doing? Fuck that guy. Louise Expiro, how you doing? Good evening. I don't know who that is. Don't know who that is. Questioners, how you doing? Good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. So, and we got, I don't think I've seen you before. Ahmad the First. Ah, come on. Oh, okay. He's not talking to me. So, and we got a whole bunch of other people. So, all right. Well, let's begin with my special guest. I want to welcome for the first time in his grand debut on the Nerdporeal channel. I want to welcome Daniel. How you doing, Daniel? What is up?
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me. I feel underdressed after that intro. I feel like I need to have a glass of cognac and a cigarette, maybe a nice robe or something. Exquisite taste.
I don't smoke cigarettes, so that would trigger me because of my, because of the fact I'm a Chicagoan, and things offend me really easily. Just letting you know. So
that's true. That's true.
So just giving you that trigger warning right there.
I won't even bring them up. Yeah, I'll just smoke in silence.
Smoking? No.
I don't smoke cigarettes, but to have exquisite taste, you have to have something in each hand. You can't just sit here like I'm doing now.
Absolutely. So, Daniel, I know you've read The Wheel of Time. You've read it for a while now. You know the story pretty well. How did you come across Wheel of Time?
I read it right when it hit the shelves. I was a teenager at the time, so I was right at the right age, and it was. I had a recommendation. I can't remember if it was Tad Williams that I was also reading at the time.
Oh, the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series.
Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, which I
tried to read the Dragonbone Chair because that was something a certain author who claims to be 75% done with his book 6, which will only take another 4 years at the rate he's going, recommended it.
Yeah, I love that series, and it has problems, and I recognize them, but I really love that book and that series, which is another coming of age story and really in-depth, chunky book. I read this as it hit the shelves, so it was something I was reading as it came out, and I was always anticipating the next book. And then I committed the horrible crime, the unforgivable crime of dipping out when the slog happened, and so I only finished the series earlier this year for the first time, but I had read the majority of the series and really love it. It was just that near the end when the slog occurs that I had originally dipped out.
When does the slog occur? Just curious.
I believe the one I dipped out was the winter book. I always forget the title. What's that one called?
Oh, don't worry
Crossroads.
About it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, the other guys.
I've heard stories about slog.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's after the big event with the One Power. I'll just say that much. So.
Okay. All right. Well, Daniel, thanks again. I know this was I think I only asked you a couple of days ago, so I really appreciate you being willing to do this. I usually give people a week, so this was kind of, in my opinion, a little unprofessional on my part. So I really appreciate you being here.
Totally cool.
All right, now we get to bring the staunch panelists that have made this series so far timeless. And I want to start with the one, the only, not just any man, a man of Manetheren, who is based in smoking that pipe and drinking that chocolate stout, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, one in each hand right there for you, Daniel.
See, there's that exquisite taste. Right
yes. There. Most of the time it doesn't include a beanie and a set of broken headphones, but it's all good.
So Nathan, how have you been? How's your week been?
Week is good. Just getting all set for Christmas with the family, dealing with all the stuff leading up to school break for the kids, and making sure that I just stay with it because it's insane, but life is good, so I can't complain.
All right, great. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for being here once again. I appreciate you too.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And next guy is someone who given a lot of crap today, so I need to once again say how much I appreciate this gentleman. He's the reason why I'm drinking right now. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll find out in years to come. We'll see that. But this gentleman is just awesome, and I want to say hey to Pips. How you doing, man?
Cheers.
Cheers.
I appreciate that heartfelt apology. I know it's heartfelt because you have a drink in your hand when you say it, which is guy code for honesty and forthrightness. That's why we go to the bar, we hang out, we have drinks. You know, the most important events in history have been between a few men having a drink, maybe smoking a pipe, like Nathan there is. And yeah, I think there was a comment that really put in the comment section that said how I feel about Nathan with his drink and his pipe there. I don't know if you saw that or not, but you know, those in the chat, they can understand that you're not going to bring it up. Okay, fine. You know what? I'm not going to plug your thing then. Bring Profit on. He's a better salesman anyway. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. All right. And of course, my streaming brother, he was gone last week. He's a really busy guy. You know, he's got children. He's got 3 kids. He has to take care of. But still, that didn't heal the wound in my heart, the hole in my heart. So I had to fill it with a lot of things. That's probably why I was giving Pips all that crap and everything. So, but the fact that Steve is here right now, the healing can begin. So without further ado, I want to present my streaming brother, Steve, Prophet of the Dragon. All hail the Dragon Sworn.
I was curious for a minute, since I don't drink or smoke a pipe. I was thinking I'm a piece of shit according to your guys's. I don't get to be a part of any of those big moments because I don't drink or smoke. So it's like, man, maybe I'm on the wrong stream. But I do have to say, all right, Tips was feeling down, so he did the right thing and joined the Continuum because you instantly gain 10 man points, and you feel better about yourself when you join the Nerdporeal Continuum. So
I've heard your testicles finally dropped too.
Yeah, they probably got a lot bigger too, and he was ready to just he was like, wife, let's go. As soon as he hit that join button, and it was he's like, man, I feel like more of a man right now. 10 points.
Give me strength.
Now, and don't let that concern all of the lady folk that are in the audience.
He's got plenty left for you.
You know, I'm sure. I don't know. You might have to consult a physician. I'm sure the effects are, you know, similarly positive. You know, it's probably fine. It's not known by the state of California to cause testicular cancer.
What? Joining that, you destroyed all my hard work. You said the Continuum gives you cancer.
No, I said it's not known. I said specifically.
I do want to say something real quick.
Doesn't even listen to English.
I do want to say something real quick. I like Pips's and the White Cloak's general take on the slog. I don't think it exists anymore, but when the books came out, there definitely was a slog because I was there. So I don't think now that the series is over that the slog exists, because you can just power through some of that slower stuff with the content that is right behind it.
I agree. That was the first time in my life that I had ever taken a book back to the bookstore for a refund.
Crossroads was bad.
That was the book. Crossroads of Twilight.
Yeah, Crossroads of Twilight. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's interesting because that's generally after when a lot of people will say the slog began when before the series was done. I hear a lot of people say around Crown of Swords and Path of Daggers is when they start feeling like it's slowing down quite a bit. But now that the series is over, I'm with you. I don't think there's a slog. You just read, go to the next book, read, go to the next book, and you're fine. But when you're waiting for that next book, like, Pips has said many times, when we're waiting for each one to come out, it did feel a lot. Crossroads felt really bad. It felt really bad.
That was the thing. I was waiting all that time and then rushing to the bookstore with anticipation. I'll never forget it. I lived in California at the time, and I was like making a beeline for the bookstore. And
I was there.
Disappointed.
Yeah. It's it was what, like a 2.5 year wait, roughly, both before and after Crossroads of Twilight. So from Winter's Heart and like the epic finale that is Winter's Heart, right? Major plot events, all that stuff. We're not going to spoil it for a Green Poreal nerd saken. But you get Winter's Heart at the end of it, and then it's 5 years until you get to what is it, Embers Burning on Dry Grass in A Knife of Dreams, which, I mean, that prologue in Knife of Dreams that's something else, right? That's a return to form for sure.
Yeah.
And that was Jordan's last book that he published, or before he
It makes
passed.
you sort of wonder what was going through his head when he wrote Crossroads of Twilight. I don't know when he was diagnosed with his problem, so maybe he was.
I believe it was the
dealing with
year
some
before.
stuff. I don't know.
Maybe it was the year before he died, from what I read.
Was it? So I don't know. Just
2006.
Crossroads was like so just off. Crossroads was just a weird one-off.
He really rallied with The Knife of Dreams. It's like he came back to his old form in an amazing way. It's just very surprising.
So the behind the scenes there a little bit, right, is that Winter's Heart and Crossroads of Twilight was supposed to be one book, and the publisher was like, that's too big. That's too much of a book. We can't like, binding technology doesn't allow for this like massive book to be made, right? And so he split it in half, right?
So like mix Crossroads, the events of Crossroads to be mixed in with Winter's Heart, because I don't see how you end Winter's Heart with anything from Crossroads of Twilight.
No. Like, so Crossroads of Twilight was all of the POVs that weren't in Winter's Heart, and they're contemporaneous, right? The timeline, they go together in terms of the timeline.
So like Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons.
Yeah, because that listen to your publishers, writers, because those both worked out great. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and I will say that I think that this is probably like the one thing that I think was maybe a failing in terms of Harriet's job as like the editor. I think instead of getting him, well, she didn't have any control of that. The rights had been sold a decade, 2 decades before that, but I think that instead of getting him to split the book and flesh out both stories, the events of Winter's Heart should have been streamlined a little bit, tightened it up a little bit, brought it down to the level where it could have been published as one book, and we'd have a 13-book series instead of a 14-book series, and Winter's Heart would be still a phenomenal book, right? So I think that's kind of the behind the scenes, is that the book got split in half, and all of the good stuff got put in Winter's Heart, and all of the stuff you didn't like as much got put into Crossroads of Twilight.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. And
would it work? Is it possible? Because how I used to read Feast and Dance was I would read a few chapters of Feast and I would read a few chapters of Dance, and I go back, and then I go back and forth between them.
That's actually a really interesting idea. I've never heard of someone doing it.
I don't know. I guess I guess you could try when there was a big event in Winter's Heart to shift to a parent point of view in Crossroads, and maybe that would work. I don't know.
Maybe that's something that we should look into and try and look at all the chapters in the 2 books and basically like put them in order, in chronological order, and do like a kind of read order.
Are they different? Are they different?
Sounds like a thing that Dane Bornhold would be the guy to talk to about that. So
question:
I think
are they different? Are they different point of views in each books? Okay, then it shouldn't be too hard. Then what I do is I read one point of view. I read different points of view, and then when it cycles back to whoever, then I go to the next book, and then when that cycles back, I go to go back to the previous book. That's how I did it before. I never read.
It's not a terrible way to do it.
I never read Feast or Dance altogether.
I mean, I'm halfway through Crown of Swords now again because I started back up now that I'm back to work. So that might be an interesting way to try and do things. We'll see, because I wasn't sure I was going to read Crossroads this read through just because, but I've been encouraged to by everybody to read it. So, but maybe we should get to Eye of the World where we could talk about all this shit for hours.
Yeah.
All right.
And I have to go to work tonight, so sorry. So I'd like to at least be part of the discussion.
Yeah, and I gotta go to work tomorrow. I have to get up early tomorrow too. I'm a working man again.
Oh, there's no getting up about it. I'm leaving. I have to leave at 10 to go to work overnight. Yeah, so
I know. All right, let's get started. So we're covering the final 10 chapters of Eye of the World. So that'd be chapters 44 through 53. So where did we leave off last time? So chapter 43 was the chapter, I believe, where we find out about the ways, and we find out that how Loyal feels about guiding them to the ways, because they recently just got back together. All members of the party got back together, and Moraine learned about what they were, what Balsamon was saying to them, and especially about the Eye of the World. And then she realized, well, we gotta get to it's now become a race against time to get to the Eye of the World before the enemy does, or the evil one or whatever. So that's basically where we leave off. We get one dream at the end of 43, and I think all three of them are dreaming at the same time, but we see it through Rand's point of view, and he sees three figures on a table. It's probably in the same room with the fireplace and the table in the middle, and we get the figures of the wolf, the figure with the dagger, and the figure with the sword. And Rand tries to deny, Balsamon, and it gets to a point where he gets stabbed in the hand, and he feels a pain, and Moraine has to heal him because he wakes up with that stab in the hand. I don't know how he got stabbed, but he just felt something stab him.
Oh,
Do they ever
Raffo?
They what?
Raffo.
Read and find out. Where's the drink?
Well, I didn't. Okay, well, all right, fine.
So you're working.
Your streaming buddy is turned against you.
The dream stuff gets much more in depth. There's a lot. If you Knife of Dreams, there you go. There's a whole book title for you. There is a lot to do with the world of dreams that you don't know about, and you will get to learn about. It's actually pretty damn cool, I think.
I'm curious.
I like the whole.
How you felt about the game pieces and our three main characters represented in the game pieces that Balsamon has on the table, because that was one of my favorite imageries from the dream world when he is, because it's so creepy. It's wonderfully creepy. It's creepy because it's they're being watched, they're being observed from who knows where, from either from Dark Friends or maybe from Shadowspawn that they don't see, or maybe even from the Forsaken themselves. Maybe they somehow, or Balsamon himself can just somehow see him through his evil panel or his evil telescope. I'm thinking Power Rangers right here.
Yeah, Zordon.
Lord Zed or Rita.
Hey, Daniel, did you like the subtle reference to that in the show with the 13 Forsaken chess pieces? Oh my god! I'm sorry.
I thought we were not allowed to bring that up.
Okay, sorry.
I don't remember 13 of them in the show.
There's not even one. Sorry, go ahead. We won't go there.
One of the other things that the game pieces, or the small, I don't know if they're game pieces necessarily. I always thought of them that way, as chess pieces, but it also brings into question of, are they masters of their own fate? Is their own will even their own? Because are they being played? And I found it as just a wonderful, again, creepy kind of thing, and pulling into question, because we have Rand still questioning who he is and what his actual fate is and intentions are, what's he meant to really do.
Chad, that's what he's meant to do.
I love how he acted, but you kind of wonder, like, are the evil ones playing them? Like, what's going on? So I'm curious where this goes. I'm curious if this is setting something else up. I'll have to go and see. So so that's basically chapter 43, and now let's get into the rest of it. So this first chapter was kind of was probably my least favorite. It's all basically setting up them getting into the ways. So it's just them, walking and observing. They're sneaking out of the inn. And they get to this one dude's place. I forget the name of the guy and what he does, but apparently there's a portal to the ways, or a door to the ways, underneath this guy's shop, I believe.
It's like a wine merchant, is what I remember.
Yeah. So she of course, Moraine uses magic to access the cellar. I believe it was in the cellar. Mm-hmm. And we learned that I think all of the ways, all of the gateways were all part of groves, and Loyal laments, what has happened to a lot of these groves. Like there were these giant trees that used to make up these groves, and now they're gone. So I'm guessing that's
Yeah, so that's something you learn throughout. It's not really like a plot point. It's just kind of a piece of world building that all of these cities that are Ogier built cities. So the old really great capitals. So Tarvalon, Camelin. Some of these cities were built by Ogier stonemasons, and they built Ogier groves to remind them of the steading, essentially, and help them keep kind of the longing at bay while they were working. And typically, there would have been waygates associated with those groves, as well as with the steadings. So that's sort of what you kind of see with the cities. But a lot of the cities have since grown, and the groves are no more, which Loyal talks about, right? How sad he is that the groves are gone.
Yeah. And I think it's a beautiful, I thought it was a beautiful piece of, like you said, world building. And we get to know how Loyal feels about certain things. And it just makes me, it just leaves a lot to the imagination right there. So
It tells you a lot of interesting, a lot of interesting things about the Ogier, because they were so dedicated in helping humanity come back after the breaking and build entire cities for them, to the point they needed these groves just for their own sake, and humans have destroyed these groves, which is not very.
There's only one that's been tended to, right? And that's the one in Tarvalon, isn't it? Yeah.
So humanity, which they also talk about very often.
The one in Kyrian was still there.
Yeah, like a park, right? It's kind of there.
During the events of the Eye of the World.
But Loyal
during the events of Read and Find Out.
Loyal talks about how humans have short memories compared to the Ogier. So Ogier, a lot fewer generations have passed over time. They still remember things, whereas humans have completely forgotten, are not even appreciative of what the Ogier did for them, to the point where they destroyed their groves.
Except for in the Borderlands.
Yes.
No, the Borderlands are very highly respected, right? Yeah, they're too. Yeah. But I feel like the Ogier stuff, there's almost like a whole short story / book of histories and stuff of the Ogier that could be just fleshed out. Like there's so much going on with the Ogier that we never learn, even with everything we do learn about the Ogier. That it would just, I think, would be interesting just to get their history a little bit more. I don't want to say accurately, because most of them are very old, so they know their history very well, but just sort of see it and hear about it in some of the events. Because, the Ogier are very fascinating to me, and I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to go on a rant about a certain show.
I'm curious. I know because they live in a steading, they don't have they're protected from the one power, the true source and everything, and from, shadow spawn. But I'm curious, and don't have to answer. You don't have to say anything. I'm just curious if they have their moment, their Tolkien moment. The Ogier are going to war.
I think Steve has an answer.
Read and find out.
Yeah.
Thanks, Peps.
Yeah, read and find out. I think that's the best. I wasn't sure I was going to say
I wasn't
that,
expecting an answer though.
I wasn't sure I was going to exactly, but that's probably the proper answer without spoiling anything. But there's a reason Loyal and Tom quickly become some of your favorite characters.
I think it's okay to say you don't have to wait to very long to at least get a taste.
I mean, Loyal's young and brash, according to him. So we'll just leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I think he's 90 years old. So yeah,
he's young. 80, 90. He's like 100. He's close to. He's rounded. He's getting close to 100.
He's in the 90s. He's in the 90s, I think. Yeah.
So he's older than Senbui.
But he's young.
But he's like as young as, I think he's supposed to be as young as
he's very young.
As in Ogier.
He's like 16.
Yeah.
He's very young and brash and doesn't think things out, according to the Ogier. Oh. So that
hasty.
So okay, I got a question about the ages of everybody. I assume that all the the 5 are all the same age. Is that
no? Nynaeve is older.
How much older is
older. she's about 4 or 5 years older.
Yeah.
So,
See, and that's the thing that's sort of changed. I always pictured when I was younger them it being like almost like 15, 14, 15, but apparently it's what 17, 18 going
actually
out.
older than that. So Rand and Matt and Perrin are 19, almost 20 at the start of the series. Because if you think, right, the Aiel War is commonly talked of as being 20 years ago. But we know from a statement that Matt makes in a later book that he's 20 at the time that happens. And
Okay.
if you know the timeline of the book, that means that they're probably 19 years old. I think we've
Because
actually
they-
argued in the chat with some people about this.
They
Gadfly
never.
fiction.
Well, no. That's sort of why I mentioned it because it's never outright said their age.
It isn't.
You have to sort of figure it
Yeah.
out. So that's
Yes.
why I don't know why I like it
Right.
got because I knew they were young, and I don't know why it got planted in my head that they were like really young. I mean, obviously 20 is not old, but you know what I mean,
Yeah.
like lower teens to amidst.
I think it's because of
higher
Egwene.
teens, but
So Egwene and Elaine and
because they're
Avienda
fucking so
are like
bitches.
16, 17,
Yeah.
right? So they're younger.
They
So
acted.
Rand, Matt, and Perrin are about 19, 20 at the start of the series. Nynaeve is like 23, 24, somewhere in there.
I always
Aldan is
pictured her.
22, 23.
I thought
Couple
she
years
wasn't
older.
much older than Rand.
No.
It's
and-
not that
and
much
Nynaeve.
older.
It's not
I
that
mean,
much older.
22,
She's
23. If Rand's 19, 20, that's only 2,
Yeah.
3 years.
So I think the most accurate thing that we have to kind of judge her age is that she talks about like basically being a babysitter for the kids when she was growing up, which would mean that she would have been like, you know, a 10, 11-year-old girl when they would have been kind of toddlers, right? If you think about kind of real world connection there. So I think, like I said, I think she's about 4 or 5 years above them. I'd have to, there's timelines of this stuff. You can go to the references and they have ages. But I think that tracks. And then, like I said, Egwene, Elaine, and I believe Avienda are about 2 to 3 years younger than the mains.
Yeah,
I don't think I've met
sure.
Avienda. I don't
No,
I don't think
Avienda
I've
you
met
don't meet
Avienda yet.
for 2 books, or maybe season 2. Shit.
Well,
Season
2 books.
what? Season what?
Shut your face hole, Steve.
What is it? Season? What is
Sorry, that is my bad. It's a minor spoiler in the name of a character.
It doesn't matter. It's not really spoiler.
but-
Avienda is an Aiel you meet later. That's all. That doesn't spoil.
now
I can't
that's
wait. I
spoiler.
can't wait to get to the.
I could go
Aiel.
into more detail. Like I could really spoil it for him if you want.
Please
She's a
don't.
beautiful pale black woman.
I'll tell you what she's not in, The Great Hunt, okay? She's not in The Great Hunt, and we're about to get a season of TV that has nothing to do with The Great Hunt at all, which is supposed to be based on the fucking Great Hunt. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
But Tom isn't going to be in it at all. So
I loved how you. I loved how it was just
Fluff.
a weird experience. I'm listening to your premiere. I'm giving you a super chat. I'm giving you I'm gifting you a membership.
Thank you, by the way.
And all of a
man.
sudden I hear my name. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not live, is it? And you're like, no. He's like, Nerdporeal, if you hear me, you got to do earmuffs. I was like, oh shit. So I had to scramble. I dropped the mouse on the floor. I couldn't get the headphones off, and luckily I just shut the laptop and I didn't hear anything. So
Yay.
Saved.
I knew. Yeah. There you go.
All right, but let's keep going. I know Steve's got to go to work, and we all have to go to work tomorrow. So, all right, so we get to the gate, and I think Moraine has to take like a leaf stone out of the door and then move it or something, and that's how it opens up or something.
Yeah. There's supposed to be a stone leaf that you have to move. It's a key. That unless you know that it's there, right? Because it's fit perfectly in with the intricate stone carving, just like all like Ogier stone masonry, right? So it looks to be perfectly placed right there, nestled in among all the other leaves. But if you know what to look for, then you know that that's the key, and you can remove it, and it opens the door.
I love fantasy with doors and keys. I think Steve knows why.
And that's a very special leaf
Yes,
from
it
a
is.
very special tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they get into they go through the ways, and it's, I believe, like they had a weird sensation going through the door. It's like it doesn't feel natural at all. It's like time. I forget. I think time is
There's like
time
a
is
time.
much quicker.
Yeah,
in
there's
the
a time
ways, I believe.
dilation that occurs, and which is fascinating because then he's adding a bit of physics there.
Yeah.
That if they go through the gate too quickly, it can actually be a bit dangerous.
Mhm.
So it's a nice bit of coloring of the world, of the experience of them going through it, explained in an interesting way from their perspective.
Yep.
Yeah,
But
and I
most of
love
them
how
get sick
the
the first time, don't they?
I love how the darkness in like once they get in, the darkness is like it's like a kind of pressure. So when they have when they try to light stuff, the light is struggling to emit because of the nature of the ways.
Yep.
That's
I don't know
one
if
of
it's the corruption. I'm not sure if it's the Sidene corruption that is causing it, which
a
is
little bit.
also responsible for a
Yes.
certain wind that we're gonna get to pretty soon.
That's another thing. One of my favorite things is when they enter the ways and the darkness is pushing against the light, and it adds an element of mystical, magical quality to the story, because a lot of the story is very just simply medieval until you get to things like fades and the one power. But even the one power, it's not itself. It's almost more like a Brandon Sanderson type of magic system that's very like well defined and with physics and everything of its own. But then we get to places like the ways where it's all just kind of non-understood, and you get this more mystical, ambiguous magic.
I mean, they don't even understand it fully
I
because they don't go in there.
I actually kind of disagree with the description of the magic system being like a hard magic system. I've always kind of thought the Wheel of Time has a fairly soft, kind of squishy magic system where like it, there are rules, right? There are things that it can and can't do, but it's not Harry Potter where like, whatever situation you need, they just say a couple different words that they could have known yesterday but didn't, and it solves the problem. But it's also like, it's not like so restrictive.
I think it's in the middle.
100% agree. Yeah, I'd agree in the middle. I 100% agree about the ways. I've always described the darkness in the ways as a character that like it actually has a presence in the scene, in the ways that actually interacts with the characters and their perspectives and appreciations.
And it's the closest next to Mashadar that is like true horror. I mean, there's other elements of horror.
Machi and Shin and Mashadar are some of the coolest things like ever.
Yes.
I love both of them, man. And there is no cost per unit except for energy, Dempsey. It's like if you can't, you're eventually going to run out of. You're going to fatigue from just like, I would say like jogging. Like if you run hard for too long, you're gonna pass out. So if you're channeling too hard for too long, you're gonna pass out.
I know it's. Sorry.
I would say no. You're good, Daniel. I would say I think it's right smack in the middle because there are rules, but we also don't know how a lot of it's implemented. And sometimes things just pop out, and you're just like, wow, okay. How did they do that, right? So I think it's smack in the middle because there are plenty of rules when it comes to the one power, but
I like what Dempsey brought up, by the way, because it's a fantastic quality of magic, since essentially all magic is actually, if you want to go by D&D rules, everyone's basically a cleric. And magic is essentially God-given power, and the limitation is the human body, the fragility of the human body to essentially channel, which is cool that he calls it channeling. It all makes great sense. It's all very like.
And there's tools to overcome the fatigue of like, so there's tools that can make you better at it, make you go stronger, longer, whatever. I don't need any tools. I'm strong just on my own, but
I think the reason that I'd say that I agree with it being kind of in the middle is because its softness as a magic system never becomes an issue for the story, right?
Oh, true, true.
So a lot of stories that have soft magic systems end up having the like every single moment is just a Deus Ex Machina, sort of like what are they going to pull out of the spell book today? Whereas the conflicts with the one power end up being very character driven rather than very magic driven. And because of that, I think it doesn't end up being a problem for the story. Which I think honestly is a lot like the way magic functions in sort of Tolkien's universe, right? That it's not it's not super well defined.
Yes.
But it's also not the thing that drives the story. It drives the story a lot more in the Wheel of Time, but it never actually takes over the story, which I think is a good balance.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Wheel of Time. Yeah, I won't go into it, but I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've not read a lot of fantasy that has had very crazy magic systems and everything. I mean, when I think of the most magic, I think of, believe it or not, The Legend of Zelda. So I read Lord of the Rings, and yeah, I mean, this series is probably the most magic I've seen in a fantasy, and I haven't read a whole lot of fantasy. So
if you read a Brandon Sanderson, you'll see a very well hard defined magic system.
Yeah, I could definitely.
There's lots of those. There's a lot of magic systems, and they're very well defined in Sanderson's stuff.
So, going back to the Ways. So I know the Ways was, I believe, created by Aes Sedai for the sake of the Ogier, so that they can get from one setting to the other easily. This is just based off of memory.
Yeah.
And so it's basically right now this is basically a dark place with a bunch of islands. So I'm assuming there's it's bottomless. I'm assuming it's a bottomless place with islands and bridges. I swear I must have played something like this in a few video games at one point. I just can't think of anything in particular. I don't know if it was like Majora's Mask or something along those lines. Okay, I'll say Majora's Mask. But yeah, so they're going from one part. They're going from one part of the Ways to another. I think they're trying to read they have Loyal reading like these stones. So every time they get to a new island, there's like a stone. I don't know if it's like directions or something, but he's reading the stone to figure out what direction to go to get to this particular gate. I forgot the name of the gate, but the gate that leads, that's right next to Feldara, which is where they're trying to go right now. And we find out that this place, like the world, is in a state of decay. Like we see a lot of potholes, we see a lot of damage, and I think ultimately, and I don't know if it's this chapter or the next chapter, there are dead Trollocs. And because there are dead Trollocs, we find out that they use the Ways to navigate. So one of the big mysteries throughout this book was, how did they get to the two rivers without being seen by the other kingdoms? Well, that question has been answered here, and I thought that was pretty interesting. So
I loved it. Yeah,
I'm not sure. I don't
paying
remember
attention
how they found out.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I don't remember how they found out. I don't remember if they explained how they found out or discerned how they found out. How the spawn have found the Ways and started using them, or did they always know about it?
So, I mean, you've read the end of the series, right? So, or the end of the book. So,
yeah.
What is the the seven towers in the Blight, right?
Oh yeah, Land's Kingdom.
One of the cities.
So there's at least one city that had a waygate that's now inside the Blight.
It's now in enemy territory.
Oh, Malkier. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Golden Crane, brother.
So
I forgot that detail. I take responsibility.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful payoff that Robert Jordan gives us. He just doesn't give you open-ended mystery box nonsense and everything. He really pays off things that he sets up earlier and mysteries that he sets up earlier.
He also doesn't always, sort of spoon feed you all the answers, right? So I don't think he ever necessarily tells you that they're using the Malkieri Waygate. We know from other contexts that it's not necessarily the only possible sort of way that they could be doing things.
Well, I think to answer Nerdporeal's question, no, they never come right out and, like you're saying, Pips, they never come right out and tell you how they're doing it or why or how they figured it out. But if you're paying attention, you can understand. Well, they know they exist because obviously there's mill channelers and these the dark ones involved, right? And they have a waygate sitting in their own territory that nobody's going to come bother them while they figure out how to use it. Yeah. And then, of course, testing it out. Well, we'll just throw Trollocs and Fades in there. Who cares if they die? We can make more of those.
And we get to basically figure this out the same way the characters are doing it. So we get to empathize and sort of be in their shoes, trying to figure out this mystery.
That's why I like. That's one of the things I really appreciated the second read was just like like you guys said, paying attention to the details. And
Well,
Can I
everything.
ask a question to the panel here? So talking about the ways, talking about things that don't ever get answered.
Go ahead, Pips.
So
Don't worry about derailment.
the men of the mountain home were the men of Menethrin, right? Were able to make it home faster than friends hoped or enemies feared they could. And Menethrin had a waygate.
I think it's safe to assume they used it, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's always been my assumption that they were able to make it back.
They had to. They had no
ways.
choice. I think when it comes down to it, we have to get from here to there. We have no time. We have this thing that allows us to get there, but half of us could die going through it. Well, we have no choice. We got to get home.
The question though is, I don't actually think the ways were dark during that time either, though, right? So Menethrin fell 2,000 years ago.
It took a while for them to get fully corrupted, so it's probably mid corrupting, I would imagine.
Yeah, I thought the ways went dark like 500 or 600 years before the events of the story, right? That's totally spitballing. I don't think it was 2,000 years before though. So I think the waygates were. I mean, if you just think about it, it would make sense that they wouldn't still be making waygates if the ways were dark, and cities like Arid Hall, right, were not around when, like, we know Camelin wasn't around when Arid Hall fell, right? So we kind of know that the ways weren't dark yet. But anyway, it was just something that I thought of on a reread where I was like, that makes sense. So the men of the mountain home were far away in a distant land fighting, and the Shadow thought they got the jump on them, but they were able to use the ways and get back home in order to defend their homeland.
They would have
an
done
interesting thought. Potentially not true, I guess. We don't know the answer, but I've always thought that that's what happened.
I think it's safe to assume it has to be something like that, I would think. But they would have had to find an ogre or something to guide them and all that stuff, all the details of how they did it. But I think that's a safe assumption. Other than them by mistake working a portal stone doesn't make sense, and them traveling doesn't make sense. So
right. Well, and that makes Maureen's tale to the Emmons Fielders even all that more interesting, because she doesn't have all the information, because her assumption in that story is that they rode harder than any man had any right to.
And it makes sense as well, because the Menethrin's army died to the last man. So nobody actually knows. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they would have done it if they could. So it's a good assumption.
Yeah. If they had a guide to get them through, they would have absolutely 100% do it. Absolutely, Daniel.
All right.
Yes, Aldan, the power of toxic masculinity.
All right. So just to keep this going. So a couple other things I wanted
to. The best. Sorry, I just saw Daniel's comment. No love for Drakkar. I love Drakkar. Sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
For a second, I thought you said Jakar, the best character of Babylon 5, but no.
He is the best character.
He is. If you watch Babylon 5, you'll know what I mean. So great, very great show. But going back, that's one thing. I'm hoping to see more Drakkar. Like, I want to see them in action. Like, I've only seen them fly earlier in the book, and then of course the final battle we see them being dispatched. So I'm hoping to see them in action doing shit, ruffling some feathers.
I mean, they're not real fighters. They're assassins. So you get to see
I hope we see an assassin. I mean, I hate to sound bad, but I hope to see them do something. Give them a little bit of menace.
Read and find out. You're fine.
Well, thanks, Steve. I didn't ask a question. So, but there's a few other things I wanted to talk about in the ways before we get to Feldara. So like I said, there was a state of decay. So one of the bridges directly to Feldara is out. So they had to figure out another ways. Of course, Loyal is just like, let's get the fuck on her. And Moraine's like, no, we have to go to that particular gate. And then there's a few moments of levity when they're camping or when they're camping and everything. I like how they have a wholesome little chance to catch up, and there's like moments where Rand is like, who's Aram, and then Matt brings up I forget who Matt brings up. I don't know. Think of the girl.
The girl.
Els, wasn't it Els?
Yeah,
Els.
Elsa
Who's
Grindelwald.
else?
See,
I wish I knew how to talk to girls like
discussion.
Perrin could.
Egwene is a biatch. All right, Egwene was totally just flirting with Aram. Els was flirting with Rand and having none of it. Let's screw
Yeah.
it.
Rand
All right,
didn't
moving
do
on.
anything.
Rand didn't do
was there.
anything. Egwene was basically had her panties drop. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. What are we talking about?
And I think they even
Egwene.
asked.
Jeez.
I don't know if it was this chapter or a later chapter where Min is brought
Slut.
up. Where Min is brought up.
Which
Like
he
Ned.
did nothing either.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So-
Rand's not allowed to talk to women.
Well,
And he should have.
Egwene is allowed to.
Man,
Yeah,
I
Should've
got
been-
so
and-
mad. Sorry, go ahead. Nick.
who is the one that
Sorry.
always brings up the other women?
Wait.
Egwene?
No,
Is it Perrin?
it's
Matt?
I don't
Matt.
know.
Matt.
Yeah, okay.
Matt's
Yeah.
stirring shit.
Yep, he
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Yeah,
And-
there you go. That's Matt.
And what's funny was
good.
I think Rand felt, even though they were kind of bickering, Rand felt like, wow, this feels like home again, and just he started to realize how vastly different their lives are now than it was then, and just like moments like that are something to be missed, stuff like that, and just makes you when you're in that situation, you just realize how grateful you were to experience that. So, but yeah, I really like that. And of course, I think there's a point where they're all like on edge, obviously. So Moraine is like, whispering and trying to do her healing words, magic or whatever. I forget what they call it. But then she brings up another key point that I'm sure, will pay off in the next book. She says, I believe Tom Maryland is alive and everything, I think at this point. So, and of course, I don't remember if they believed her.
They don't.
But yeah, so I'm really curious. What I'm looking forward to, and I don't know if they'll do this, but if this is what I want to see, assuming this is in the Great Hunt. I want to see what exactly what happened, how Tom got out of that sticky situation. What was the name of that town again? Weybridge.
Whitebridge. We never see
Whitebridge.
it.
That
Why? But they don't even recount it.
Not really. He just
Like how he survived.
He took an injury and ran is basically what he says. I know this should be a read and find out, but he basically took an injury and fled because there was a distraction.
The Fade wasn't interested in him is the basic explanation.
I see.
And that moment with Moraine, when she says she believes that Tom is still alive, that to me was the most, because a lot of people make the comparison to her being the Gandalf of the series. That's her most Gandalf-like moment to me, because she has no reason to believe that aside from just believing in hope and goodness and the creator, because she doesn't have information on whether Tom is alive or not.
What's funny is, and I said this in an earlier stream, I feel Tom also shares that Gandalf-like role. Now, he doesn't practice magic, but he has that obviously he's got the millions of mustaches, and I don't know if he has a beard, but he's got the millions of mustaches, white mustaches. But he has that father-like Tolkienian behavior. He acts like a very no-nonsense father figure, which is how Gandalf acted, and how Tolkien's Father Christmas acted in his letters from Father Christmas to his children. And that's kind of how I saw Tom now. And I can't wait to see how his story plays out in the rest of the series.
It is a very good way to put it. Yeah,
he takes those kids right under their wings and is just trying to look out for them, at least for a time, and then it just sort of you'll see. I don't want to get into too much.
Robert Jordan does ground Tom. There's a reason why Tom is so charitable towards these young boys.
And there's so much more there's so much to learn about Tom that there's so much backstory on Tom. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, like, he was part of the court of Camelin, Bard, I believe, of the royal court, and of
There's
course,
even more than that.
he has a history. He has a history with the Aes Sedai. So I'm curious to see how this all plays out. Like, I'm curious if there's going to be ever come to a point where he forgives the Aes Sedai or whatever. I don't know, but that's something I want to see.
I'm curious, but you've already kind of answered my question. I was going to ask you, did you feel like you didn't get enough of Tom in this story so far?
No, I was hoping to see more, if he came back. I figured, I was hoping he'd come back at the end of the book, but he didn't. So
yeah,
Tom is always that character you never get enough of. He's just, you can always have a scene with Tom in it because he is always the center of the dialogue, the activity. He's that fatherly figure that everybody sits down at his feet as he's telling stories.
The dynamic of you're right, because the dynamic of Tom and his future companions, with where he ends up is so good half the time. Just the two of them working off each other with in their situation. There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good Tom stuff coming. So just
like Nathan just said, unlike Gandalf, because Gandalf has always been an old man and never pictured him as a young man. He's like one of these, he's brought into being as an old wizard. But with Tom was once a
comet.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Cracked out of a comet like an egg. But Tom was once a young man who had all kinds of adventures and stories of his own, and was a ladies' man, and a politician of sorts, and intrigue and all kinds of things that Tom has been involved with. So he's like this cool man of mystery, like what's that commercial?
He's the Wheel of Time's 007.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
The most interesting man in the world.
I thought they were going to say Austin Powers.
I was thinking of Dos Equis.
For him and for Loyal and Tom being like second tier characters, you care a lot about them, and you get a lot of good stuff from those two in particular. That's why I think they're so loved.
I can't wait to see more of that. So, but a couple other things before we get out of the ways. So, another thing we learn is that, like I said earlier, they find some dead Trollocs, and I don't know if if it was just Trollocs, but apparently there are booby traps in the ways. So like that alone would get me on edge if we found this out. You're like, okay, we gotta be careful now. We're going into Indiana Jones territory. So you step on a piece. You don't know what will hit you. So yeah, it gets pretty crazy. And of course, then Lan turns around and realizes that something is following them, and everybody's assuming right away it's Machine Shin, the Black Wind. And I think he's like, no, this doesn't want to quite follow us, like doesn't want to catch up to us. It's just, staying on our tail. And of course that gets answered in a couple chapters. So we'll get to that when we get to that. But then they get to, I think Machine Shin starts to catch up. They have to run to the door. Everything gets messed up. The key is not there. The key to the door to get out of the ways is not there. So what has to be done? Well, they're desperate. So Moraine has to use has to take out her lightsaber, her magic ways lightsaber, and I think make a hole in the door, or I forget if it was a circle in the door, or if she was trying to cut it. And then I forget like the entire sequence. Like Lan was using his horse to knock the stone out or something. I forget exactly how that went down, but they had to.
Yeah,
there was a sequence to that.
Mandar crashed into it, I think, right?
To get it to like collapse or something so that they can leave.
Because Mandarb's a warhorse, and that's an actual thing that warhorses would do, is actually use their bodies because warhorses will kill the enemy just like their rider will. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Keep that in mind, Steve.
It's the warhorse.
What did I do now? Pips isn't a warhorse. Pips is like a little gelding.
What?
Pips pulls a wagon and pulls a plow.
Yeah,
okay.
Pips isn't a warhorse.
I
You know how much warhorse are
to-
not only bred, but then they're trained to be killers, man. Pips is no warhorse.
And you think that Matt Cawthon's riding around on something that's not
because he doesn't need exactly because
you think Matt Cawthon doesn't pick the best horse? Come on. Get out of here with that.
He has a pick for him.
Abel would be disappointed.
Here's some money. Go ahead.
I have to ask, when do we meet?
Is Pips really
when do we-
Warhorse? Like, I
when do
don't
we
know.
meet? When do we meet the true Pips?
I
want to say read and
Shadow
find
Right?
out, but it's
Shadow Rising?
it might be.
He's on Pips when that one event happens with that one guy, right?
The one time?
That one time.
That one
Yeah.
time, the thing.
Yeah.
Come on.
That
You know the
sounds
thing
that
I'm
sounds
talking about.
right to me. The
Yeah.
Shadow Rising. Let me. I'll make sure. I'll make sure that we're right here.
It's when a certain people escape a certain place, isn't it?
Exactly.
And a certain person.
I said,
that
look.
Pips doesn't like.
I said the Shadow Rising. If you don't know what I'm talking about with Matt and that one person and that one thing, then you're not paying attention. During that one event in the Shadow Rising, you know what I'm talking about.
Just to confirm my own recollection here. Yeah, so he's Tyron. Pips is Tyron.
Oh, okay.
Which means basically the best horse stock in
Good
the
stock,
world.
yeah. Very good stock, yeah. Absolutely.
And that's why Matt rides Pips.
All day long.
And because I'm a power bottom.
Wow, I didn't. Nathan, that's a good point. I never
not
thought of
this-
it that way. Holy crap.
I know. Yeah.
I guess this
He
stream
loves
is
when he
not
breaks out
for
the riding
kids.
crop.
Oh,
no,
man.
no. Look, riding crops are perfectly normal for horse and rider to use.
I feel like I'm gonna have to do this just so people get the right frame of mind here.
Oh. All right, so they managed to escape. They managed to escape. They managed to get out just in time, and I believe they hear the screams of I think Mashin Shin is made up of they can hear the screams, the dialogue of what it's saying. I forget if it's supposed to be made up of lost souls or something. This black wind, or if it's
you don't ever get.
I guess we never truly
answer.
know, but it just mutters shit, and it just freaks the hell out of everybody. And well, can't blame them. Yeah. But yeah, it's just
in a TV show. You're worried about a copay.
Yeah. And so they get out, and they have to go. They have to go to the castle, or the Feldara is just within distance, so they have to get there. And so yeah, it's 2 chapters. We have 8 more to go. Are you guys? We'll try to get through this quickly. So I believe what they do is they're trying to get to the castle, and they realize that the farms are all abandoned and everything. So apparently shit's been going down in this part of the world. Now I believe that this is the Borderlands, right? Right here.
Yes.
Wait,
Okay.
did I miss the psychoanalytics of Mashin Shin? Oh wait, sorry, we're talking about the book. Sorry, moving on.
Yeah, so we get to so
girls.
You'll get it later.
Regina George. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry. All right. So yes, they're in the Borderlands. Yeah,
so they're in the Borderlands, and apparently winter has truly come in this part of the, especially in this. I mean, it's still winter and everything, and looks like things are dead, trees are dead or destroyed and everything, and it just gets to a point where they we have to hurry, we have to get to the Green Man just in time. So they get to Feldara, and the one rule I believe Feldara has is that they have to show their faces. You cannot go in like a Jedi, you can't cover yourself, because these people deal with shadow spawn all the time. So the last thing you're going to want to see is a fade inside your ranks and everything. So that's the rule. So here we meet, I believe we meet now, is this the Kingdom of Shinar?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the Kingdom of Shinar, and we meet Lord Agilmar. And Lord Agilmar is he's happy to talk. One thing I've noticed about Agilmar, he is very dismissive of the boys, but he loves to talk to the girls. He just, he's muttering I don't, it's not in the wiki that's right in front of me, which is where I'm, recalling all this information, but I remember reading it, and I remember him muttering under his breath, calling them fools or idiots or something, clown. Well, he didn't say clowns, but he obviously doesn't. He's these he doesn't believe that these boys are what Moraine says they are. That they're. I don't even know if she even mentions that they're Taveran to him.
I don't think
but
so.
that and he tries to get her to have her bring his he has to have her bring his what do you call it um he wants her to bring his own men in place of the boys, have the boys stay there and bring his own men. She's like, no, that's not going to work.
What did you think about that, Brian? Because I'm curious what everyone else thinks. I liked this because it really helps color and explain the people of Shinar, because we're told about what the Borderlands are like. They have to face the blight, and the way I understood this, and I thought it was excellent characterization in Agelmar's world. Young men are soldiers, and at the very least, everyone in Shinar has to be useful and motivated and purposeful in what they're doing every day in order to simply survive. And to him, these boys seem like children instead of young men, like they should be. These should be at their ages. They're all full grown. They should be able to wield weapons and face Trollocs. And instead, they seem like
right. Stick can take you out in the blight, right? So it's like, why are you sending these little pussies out there with you?
literally, you could die in the blight just because you don't know to step on something that could kill you just by stepping on it.
I never took that as actually individualized suspicion of like them not looking apart. In fact, I think consistently we get the like, Rand looks like the sword fits him. Perrin looks like he's pretty dangerous with his axe. Even Matt, I think like. There's sort of people have a sense that like he's not necessarily a pushover, right? I have always took that as the Borderlands and their skepticism of Southerners, and then we get these people are actually from Menetherin, and then you get the like I would not doubt that blood, and you get the idea that and this is furthered on in some future stuff with the idea that the Borderlands have something to pull together against, right? They have a force to oppose themselves with, and that's kept them strong. And a part of that is remembering history and knowing sort of who they are and where they're from. And I think that a part of their strength comes from their reverence for the past and their reverence for history. I think that that's something that Jordan intentionally did, whereas the southern lands are soft, and the southern lands have forgotten their history. They think Trollocs are myths, right? They don't think that the Trolloc Wars really happened. So
they did something very similar in Song of Ice and Fire with the White Walkers. Like once again, history's forgotten, especially in the Southern Kingdoms. They believe it was all northern. They believe it was all northern mumbo jumbo. Mm-hmm. And the thing that really pissed me off about the final season was it got to stay that way because the entire battle, the entire war happened in the north. It didn't go to the south. That's true. It never spread to the south, which really pissed me off. So that was one thing that did not pay off.
Yeah, I'd take a Borderlands army over any army in the world. They're pure badasses bred up there and bred for war and good at it.
Never.
All right. Before
and there's an element too.
Before we say any more,
there's an element too of Viking culture.
Nathan,
sorry.
Nathan, before we say any more, I want to thank Prophet. I know me and him are at war. We're at war of generosity right now. It's called, or at least I call it generosity of attrition. So I gift him a membership. He gives me a membership. Well, the thing is, I'm still winning because I gifted
you're cheating.
a membership.
Yes, I was going to say you're
today.
cheating. You're going to my son's DK Chilfang freaking YouTube channel and giving him sponsors too.
And YouTube makes a cut on each of them. This is what YouTube wants.
That's
this is
true.
What they
so
want.
Maybe there has to be a better way.
You guys might have to come to an armistice just because
checks through the U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah. So, but I just need to say, Prophet, thank you for gifting the membership for Ruben, Christopher Haynes, and Pips. I don't know how you know this. Maybe you have transmissions yourself, but I hear a transmission too. And you know what? I want to welcome Ruben Christopher Haynes, who I had the honor of meeting in Las Vegas last year, to the Nerdporeal Continuum. And there's only one way to welcome this fine gentleman, and here it is.
I swear, if you ever show your face out there again, I won't. Ever. I won't. Ever. I won't. I promise. Oh!
Oh, and here's this for some posterity too.
Is that how you're going to win the war? You're going to win the generosity of attrition.
That I don't know. That day may never come. It's a very complex situation. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of factors that are unknown. So,
Okay.
I mean, the last thing we need is the last thing we need is violence by generosity. So that's all I can say. All right, but once again, welcome to the Continuum, and I totally agree with you guys on the on like just the way the Borderlands, the whole ideology of the Borderlands, and just the fact that they need something to fight each generation, that they need something to stand up to, just keeps them strong. Whereas, like you said, the Southern Kingdoms, because they have lost the conflict, they have lost that aspect of their lives, they've softened as a result. So I totally agree with that. And of course, sorry, and of course, Nathan, I'm sorry that I cut you off there, but if you remember what you were saying, say it.
Yeah, well, there's an element of Viking culture that's brought into the Shienarans. They're doing battle for the glory of it and for the glory of death in battle. It's just a nice little add into this culture that's hardened by battle, and they do it because battle's their love.
Can I ask you a question, Reporter, real quick? It's on topic. How did you feel about Ingtar?
Ingtar, he was the one that escorts them to the Blight, right?
Yes.
Ingtar was really, if I remember correctly, he was really eager to. He wanted to. I think one thing I didn't bring up is that they all look up to Lan. Lan is the Daishan. Is it Daishan?
Yeah, Daishan. Yeah,
he's Daishan. He was, he's Daishan. We learn quite a bit about him from, I think, Agomar, I believe.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask you that too, because that scene where they're sitting down and they're ask Agomar about Lan, and he just sort of unloads what a legend Lan is and his whole backstory. That's one of my favorite moments in the whole book is Agomar explaining why everybody respects Lan the way that they do, and that he's earned every bit of it, and that Lan is a genuine fucking badass.
Yeah. Ingtar wants to fight alongside them, and Moraine refuses them the ability to do that. And because of the fact that they're being charged with escorting them to the Blight, I believe at the same time they were leaving for the Blight, they were leaving for the Gap, I believe, weren't they?
Tarwin's Gap.
Tarwin's Gap to meet the Trolloc host.
It's high walls and arrow slits.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, I'm kidding. Don't. I'm being an asshole. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
You'll see later when we do the show watch. You'll see what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Oh, dear God, you guys are doing that? Oh, my.
I'll do it with him. I got him. I got his back.
Yeah. Well, I can't ask Pips because Pips has probably lost 20% of his soul watching that, so I can't ask him to do that. So
I never had a soul to begin with, but I told you that I would do it. I've done enough rewatching that I can take more at this point. It's like an extra couple percent.
I think it'll be a different.
That's sadism. I mean, okay. If you want,
a guy who gets ridden by Matt.
Sadism on my end.
Another 80% of your soul, Pips, and you can become a gray man. Kind of cool.
There you go. That's what I'm angling for, actually.
And then what man?
And then
man?
Read and find out.
I'm sorry. That was sarcastic.
I was just gonna say, I think it would be a little bit. I think it would be a little bit different than a White Cloaks rewatch, as in I don't know that we'd stop every 2 seconds.
Probably not.
So I think.
And I don't even know if this would be live. This is something that has to be discussed.
Oh, it's got to be live
afterwards.
Man,
it has.
It has. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes.
You're railing.
But yeah, so Ingtar has to go. They're going to they're going to miss the battle, and so he's extremely disappointed. Oh my gosh, I spy these things. Hi.
Hey.
I'll just say real quick, I love Ingtar. He's a great character.
Oh, so
Ingtar is
so,
awesome.
so he's not just okay. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see what
I
You get
said
a lot
too
more.
much.
You get you get a lot more Ingtar in the Great Hunt. That's what sort of the first impression of Ingtar. I always sort of like to hear what people have to say, just because you get a lot of Ingtar in the Great Hunt. And Ingtar is. I'm going to stop talking. Ingtar is the interesting character. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So, yeah, Ingtar is. I thought it was interesting. I think there was a point where I think it was a Nynaeve that asked him, like, "Why do you care about fighting so much?" And he's like, "Because it's what we do."
Yeah.
At least
so
that's how I remember him putting it.
He's so pissed. He's like, "We got to escort you. We don't even get into the mix. Thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate this.
Yeah.
I don't get to kill any Trollocs."
Because he's like, I was supposed to go here and I'm stuck doing this. I'm gonna have to hurry to make it in time to do this. And
yeah, I was supposed to
it's
go
like this
die
whole
in
dishonor
glorious
thing.
battle with Trollocs and save the day, and now I'm escorting babies that won't even let me protect them in the Blight. Great.
It really tell what you said, Nathan, is so true. They look forward to dying in battle. It's not just a matter of it's not like they're suicidal. It's a matter of doing everything with their life that they're given, this time that they're given, in the right way, in the most right way possible, which to them is to die facing the shadow. What other way would you die except to face the shadow? It's like if Satan himself was on Earth, what other way would you rather die than to face him directly? Is kind of the way to look at it. And so all the other nations in the world are so different, and because the shadow is just more of a story, a bedtime story, instead of this real, very real thing that Borderlanders face.
I wonder if they say Kapla. Like a certain race in Star Trek.
That's a good connection. That's actually a very good connection.
You're gonna love my outro then, Daniel. You're gonna love my outro then. I'll say that. So, but yeah, they're warriors. They want to die as warriors, in battle, against the enemy that they've been trained to fight for their entire lives. So, yeah. I think this is very interesting. I hope we get to, I hope we see more of these guys and more see how they are more fleshed out and everything. So, of course, and then we learn about, Lan's family, how I believe his father was the king of Malkier, and he had a younger brother who died in battle, and his brother's wife wanted to take power away. Did not like the king at all, so she conspired, and I forget exactly the scenario, but it got to the point they got so destabilized that they were open to attack, and they ended up getting overrun by Trollocs, by the Trolloc army and everything, and it got to a point where they had to send infant Lan away. They anointed him, and that's where he gets the Dai Shan, and they give him a diadem and they send him off. And yeah, I mean, I know it's really, I know there's probably way more to it than what I said, but this is just coming from memory right now.
I see Pip's trying not to go. He's trying. He's trying. He's holding it in.
I'm saying, yeah, that's, from memory, that's totally fine. That's I think there's more important stuff for us to talk about in the end of the Eye of the World here. We're getting tied up talking about the history of Lan and stuff, which is all great stuff. But hey, give me the meat.
I don't want to hear that.
And give it raw. Yeah. So all right.
You guys all did that to Steve. I didn't do that to Steve.
You guys did that. This is Pips' way of telling me, get on with him. Get on with it, nerd. Get on with it.
Well, we're waiting.
Yeah. Caddyshack. All right. So yeah. So we get to so they're gone. They're in the I'll just say they're in the was it the Blight? Yeah, they're in the Blight, and they're we learned that I think there's the trees will kill or something, or there's sticks out there, and these sticks will bite you and they bite your arm, and you have to cut off the arm in order to save your life or something.
Everything will kill you. Blades of grass can kill you in the Blight. It's just the worst place ever.
So the blight, I when I first read it, I imagined the blight, and this is because of, I imagined the blight is Mordor, but it's not Mordor.
I think
It's
it's worse.
there's
Mm-hmm.
because Mordor there was nothing alive. Here there's living shit.
There's lots of stuff.
Fucking kill you.
Worms, man. Worms are like freaking. Oh my god!
So
yeah.
are they
I got
supposed
see
to
a
be like
worm.
Are they supposed to be like worms? Like
I-
they
what,
slither,
they're
they
like-
kind of squirm.
No, I think they're
and-
like Doom. Aren't they like Dune type worms? They're
I took
giant things
them
that crawl
like
under the ground.
sandworms.
Yeah, I took them as like an in between of sandworms and tremor worms.
Yeah.
Or are they the worms, the WY? I mean, are they like the WYRM worms, which are like dragons or something?
No, they're definitely
no.
not. They're like They're worms, but they're just giant, and they'll chase you down. Once they catch your scent, they don't stop.
And
yeah, I
they-
mean,
they
we
can
never
kill-
see him, so
We never
you know.
see him, unfortunately. Yeah. So Pips wants to move on, but lots of stuff in the blight that'll kill you.
Okay, where do you want to move on to? You want to get to when they get to the Green Man and everything? Is that where you want to go, Pips?
That's a good place.
Yeah,
That's a great
Because
place.
they were being chased by worms, and the only thing that saved them was the fact
The
that
Green
they.
Man.
Al-
Yeah,
also,
I'm the Green Man.
also,
Leads
there's
right
like a green Nerdporeal, something like that going on here.
I
All of our
do
names are
have
hidden.
to
I
say,
can't
I
remember.
do, I do have to say, the little use of Moraine's ward was cool. Before that, the ward to
Yeah.
just don't you step out of it and you don't see anything, you step in. Explanation why she was doing that instead of using more
Yep.
one power stuff to attract baddies. I thought that was all good. And then of course the worm finds them and chases them.
Well, there's also an important line of dialogue that just had to make its way into the show. It was too important to not leave in between Lan and Nynaeve.
What, did she's a better tracker than him? I'm sorry.
Yep. It was the line where Moraine had to tell. Yeah, that was
Oh,
right there.
yeah,
Canon.
Well, they
from
slept
the Eye
on
of the World.
trees and stuff because trees are safe from the blight. Okay, sorry.
I wanted to point out a quick thing. When they are fleeing through their blight together, I believe it's the only time that we see them all in their heroic aspect as a group together, because they are like riding in a formation, and we have our entire trio. Everyone's doing their part in terms of either chopping at the blight or shooting at monstrosities, and we don't have that again because everyone becomes fractured.
Except for Egwene and Nynaeve, who are just kind of riding along in the middle of the group.
Yes.
So the boys, the three boys. But
I agree. I bow down to you, Pips. You are correct. We have our three main characters who are at this point all that really matter, and so we have our three main characters actually all working in concert in a heroic fashion, along with Lan and Moraine, protecting the weak, innocent, useless girls.
There's one other time that I would say, if we're limiting it to just the three of them, there's one other time that I think might be in book 2, without going further into it.
Yeah, I mean,
without stating the obvious, yes.
Steve might know a thing or two.
Yeah,
about
I know
that.
it
might be something it kind of has to do with his channel. But other than that,
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I just said I was purely positing potentially in book 2. I couldn't recall.
Yeah, but I do think now leading into the Green Man, I think it was interesting. I'm assuming you picked up on it how early the Green Man showed up. Did you pick that up? I'm assuming, Nerdporeal.
How early
they had about a day's ride before the first sighting. Like, it's over the mountains, and then a day past the mountains or something before the first person had reported first seeing the Green Man. They didn't even make the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
They were still 2 days off. Was that maybe even longer to where the first sighting of the Green Man was?
I don't even remember.
I think it was about a day left. They just had to get over the crest of the next hill, but it was still a ways away.
I have another question for you, Nerdporeal. Do you know? Was it made clear to you how long it should take to reach the Green Man?
It might have been. I don't remember.
Did you understand once did you get at any point the fact that it could take any amount of time to reach the Green Man?
Well, the one thing I remember them saying is that the Green Man could be anywhere. Like, you can never find the Green Man twice.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
the Green
and
Man
you
would
may-
appear where he was needed.
Yes.
There you go. And
At
you
most
may
needed.
ride
So that's
around.
why Moraine was confident that they would find the Green Man.
Well, and you may ride around in circles forever, and he may never appear if you're
Yeah.
if you don't. Yeah. So
And who would you say found the Green Man through that need? Because it's almost left in the text as if Moraine did and was unique in finding him a second time, but I don't think so.
I agree with you, Nathan.
I don't know who it was, but I don't think it was Moraine either. It was more because the Green Man was surprised she was there. I feel like it's like you're here again for a second time. What the fuck?
Right. I think I mean part of this is because it's told from Rand's perspective anyway, but Rand was pretty desperate in the moment.
That's how I take it.
And so I think it was Rand that
Well,
found
and there's
him.
a certain.
If I remember
object
correctly, he
needs.
was at his most scared. I think there was a point where he was at his most scared when they're being chased by those the worms
The
that they were
worms.
chasing.
The worm.
Yeah.
And I think he was struggling. He was struggling to use the void. He's struggling to use the void.
Yeah.
To get rid of that fear, but he couldn't do it.
And if I recall correctly, he was very impressed by it was impressed upon him the very fact that this was scaring the shit out of Lan.
So I just want to point out one of the reasons that I love this series so much. I've read this book a lot of times. I've never even actually kind of thought to question like who was it that actually found the Eye of the World. But like I think you guys are 100% right, and it does actually. It's a better interpretation of the events than Moraine finding it a second time. And like I said, I've never even thought of it before, but that's totally consistent. I think you guys are right.
Well, I think I'm right there with you. I never thought until Nathan just brought it up. I was like, oh shit, I never really even took the time to think about that. They just found it, but I definitely don't think it was Moraine. Rand makes the most sense, and Moraine just happened to be in that party.
Yep.
And there's an element too that I think it involves Rand's ability with the power. That's it's almost like he's calling out to. It's almost like when he passes the strength to Bella, and all these other things that are out of desperation. It's almost like he willed the Green Man to be closer to where he should have been.
I guess I think I like the interpretation you're saying about it being Rand. I would think that it has to do with who he is, not what he was doing. I
want to make a call back to earlier in our discussion where Pips was right, and I'm not a man who's afraid to admit when he's wrong. And this is another bit of proof about a soft magic system. This moves that needle more towards the soft magic system because the entire method of the Green Man. Yeah, how explain that with the one power? This is not some simple thing of like, oh, it's 40% spirit and 80%, and it's 6-part fire and 4-part spirit. This is very mystical.
Everything, and everything not one power that happens, Perrin, Matt, all that. You can't explain any of that. Or Min, for instance, no idea how Min does what she does, but she does it, right?
Is this the pattern,
The theory that I've always heard here, and it is totally theory, fan theory, right, is that the Eye of the World is something similar to something that we may or may not see later again in the series, with the world of dreams and the real world being pulled close, being pulled sort of together.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the way that need works. And that's as much as I will say.
Need, N-E-E-D.
Need. Yep. Yeah, need.
So that doesn't, I don't think spoils anything interesting, but I think the rest of the panel probably gets it. I think it's an interesting theory. I don't think we'll ever know. But
I know what Pips is talking about, and it almost means that basically the Green Man's realm is almost an extra dimensional place.
It's shit! I got you. Never mind. Okay,
part of the world. That is mind blowing, Pips. That is very cool to think about.
That's why it's cool to talk about. You always just like you said, the Green Man stuff. What we're talking about right now. This is all stuff I've never talked about before when talking about this series. So.
And we know that pocket dimensions are a thing.
But not in this way. We know about pocket dimensions in an entirely different way. This is oh my gosh, this is crazy to think about it this way. Brian, you have so much to look forward to.
Man.
All right, and one thing I want to do before I have to go I have to step away for like a minute. But before we get to that, of course we get to the point where it gets to a point where what's her name? It was setting up for a while. Lan and Nynaeve, they have their little talk, and it felt like a very Aragornish moment where he's like, "I can't accept your love and everything." And then Nynaeve's like, "Well, I was like, why?" She's like, "Why?" And he says like, "I don't have a kingdom. I don't have anything. I'm here to fight." I'm sure that's not what it was, but that's what I'm trying to remember. But
I don't want to
Yeah,
derail this.
your wedding gift shouldn't be a widow's cloak. Fucking amazing line.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was so amazing that they decided to shove it like a like a pig's heart into a sort of.
It was a post-coital comment.
It makes me like Nynaeve so much because she's such an interesting character in how outgoing she is and how against the norm she is. She's not your typical female, even in this world. She's very, go and get what she wants, even though she's also very, I guess you could say, conservative or traditional, but she's also not. She's an interesting.
Yeah, she's morally conservative, kind of morally traditional, but she's very much very very much not what in our sort of world what we would consider traditional in terms of like roles and things like that.
Yeah,
which is one of the things that Robert Jordan does, right? The gender role dynamics are a huge part of the story, but they're not our world's gender role dynamics. They're his world's gender role dynamics, and all the different cultures have different rules.
Yeah.
And he's not telling you that one of them is the correct way of doing things or that this is the right way. They're all just laid there for you to kind of see and kind of live with for a while and make your own decisions about, which again, getting into the way the show deals with things.
Right.
I think that he did a great job.
I should have been more specific to say in a Two Rivers sense. She wants to be a good Two Rivers girl, but she also does all these things which are completely contrary to what a good Two Rivers girl should be. And it's also part of her character. Too. And it does. And I love this element of her character when she approaches. She's the one approaching Lan. I like that.
Would you say would you agree with the statement that Nynaeve is maybe one of the characters that changes the most in the series?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
For sure.
That's one of the reasons I think that she's so popular as a character, because I think that she goes through a huge transformation.
No, she goes from for me personally, couldn't stand her first few to one of my favorites.
Yes.
Bar none for me. Like, so
easily the best of the female characters.
Oh, easily the best.
She's my second favorite female character because I love Min.
Yeah, well,
but the dump truck. I mean, you can't.
That's just me fantasizing about Min, though. That's in
terms of. But Min is like Min's almost one of the guys in an aspect, so you sort of don't she's. I don't know. It's like she's just cool. So
don't say things like that. Rafe is gonna watch this stream, and then we're gonna get.
Dude, they already ruined her. What are we talking about? Like, come on, she's already a flat-chested Asian who doesn't.
Yeah, but they can reveal later that it's
trans. Yeah,
there is not enough representation on this stream for Rafe to be even remotely interested.
Don't you know that Min sounds Asian? So that's an obvious one.
Min sounds.
Honestly, I think 100% that the people making this show are racist enough that that's exactly.
Oh,
they're like, yeah, we got this character Min, and somebody's like, Min sounds Chinese, right? And it's like.
Well, we're getting way off track here, but I read something in one of the articles recently when I was doing the other video, the Tom video I just did, that like they're moving all these people to Prague because they're getting ready for season 3, and one of them was the chick that's pretending to keep stuff accurate, the advisor chick. I'm like, oh great, they're moving her closer. She hasn't got anything right yet, so why are we?
Sarah,
it's like great.
What?
I don't know.
not gonna work here anymore.
Sarah, I
lucky.
haven't read the books, but I'm an expert. Whatever. Sorry. All right. So Green Man, he's cool. Why would we have him in a TV show? Oh, sorry.
Oh shit! Really? Okay. So all right. Fuck this. God damn it! Excuse me.
There's so
Fucking
much instant
fuck.
regret going on over there.
It took Nerdporeal a minute. He's like,
God
wait,
damn.
what? It's like, oh shit, no. Yeah,
The CGI budget couldn't
because
afford.
they couldn't have even like transplanted Treebeard and just like had him go like this
Yeah,
and be
shitty
like,
whistle.
I am the Green Man. No, they didn't have time.
They're doing sock puppets.
They're busy on the beach drinking their
God
fancy drinks and taking pictures. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Hookers and blow.
Oh, I'm okay. Watching that reaction
what the
from
fuck are they
Brian, I
thinking?
may have to join.
The Green Man is awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
It's gonna be fun.
I'm sorry.
I may have to join you guys.
It's gonna
It's
be
gonna,
fun.
it's gonna be fun. Like all
gonna be
all
fun.
of us have had our soul crushed, and now we need to
Oh, I'll
experience
explode again. Don't
someone
worry.
else's soul crush.
I'll erupt again. I'll erupt
Oh,
with
shit,
it.
it's like putting your nuts in a vice voluntarily.
All right.
But in
Green Man.
fellowship. But in
Green Man.
fellowship.
I know, Steve. I know you got to go work, so let's try. We'll get.
Okay,
this.
yeah, I bought a
Green
half
Man
hour.
shows up. He brings up. The one thing that Loyal is just like in awe of the Green Man, and of course we learned the Green Man is like he's as tall. He's much taller as the Ogier as Loyal is to Moran. So I'm going to say 13 feet tall, roughly. And he sees Perrin. He knows right away Perrin's a wolf brother. He sees Rand. Rand is I think he calls him a dragon, and Rand's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And then of course, Morain's like, "Hey, we have to get to the eye of the world, and there's no time." And we hear something about like the first covenant, and I'm like, "What is the first covenant?" Like, I'm curious if Jordan ever fleshes that out, or no, or if it's just one of those mysteries that never gets followed up on. But
I don't think, I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't want to say for sure no, but I don't know. I'm trying to forget what it's referenced as. Is like what him protecting the eye of the world is the first covenant. I don't remember how it comes up.
Yeah, so it's
is that how
it
it's,
was,
I don't know how it's brought up to be.
I think so. Like, I think when he was created, I think it was.
That's how I took it.
Yeah. And I don't think he specifically calls Rand a dragon, but he refers to him in such a way where it's where it's pretty obvious what it means to us as the reader. But I don't remember dragon being specifically mentioned. I could be wrong.
I thought he said something that made sense to Rand, but maybe not to everyone else. And so,
yeah.
Well, I guess I'll keep reading, and maybe I'll get some insight into that. Who knows? But yeah, so we meet the Green Man, and he's pretty much, pretty cool character. And I am so pissed. I was so pissed that within just a chapter, he's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, is it because he knows too much? And stuff that Jordan didn't want revealed too early, perhaps.
Say that again. Sorry, Daniel. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just didn't hear what he said.
Brian was saying that was the Green Man. Did he have information that he needed to be removed so he couldn't reveal it? Is what I'm getting that you're saying, Brian.
Yeah.
This made me think a lot of another series, Shannara, when they would come across relics of the past or beings from the past, and then they would perish. And I agree with you. I wanted more of the Green Man because he's this amazing being, and he's this unique thing in the world, or at least we believe he is, that he's the only one, and he comes from the past, and he is a door, a window to the world that they have forgotten, that the world is forgotten. The world has no way of really knowing it. We know that it existed. We have relics. We have ruins from cities thousands of years in the past. We know that there was a prior world. and the Green Man would be able to answer these things, except he can't. We know he's damaged. We also see that he has memory issues, and so it's this just tragic loss. And the fact that you can feel that as a reader, again, puts you in the shoes of the characters, because here is this answer to all these burning questions they have. The fate of the whole world is at stake. The dark one is coming. Everything is on a precipice of ruin and doom forever versus, salvation. And here's the Green Man, this incredible creature, and then he's gone. And it's a blow.
Well, and I sort of, it's a blow, and I sort of took it as like he was almost, it's like, okay, my purpose, this was my purpose. I'm glad for it to be here. I've accomplished what I've accomplished what my existence was meant for, and we're good to go, right? So that's how I took it. But you're absolutely right. The Green Man, for a character that has so little screen time, to feel that so hard when he is gone, it's just like, man, it's crazy.
I mean, zero screen time.
Yeah.
But,
God damn it!
What
Keep rubbing salt in that wound.
What I wanted to say
Oh,
is
believe
100,
it's an open wound for us.
Agree with honestly both of you. So his task was done, right? So like he's given up his kind of job, which there's potentially a thing that might be getting released on my channel shortly that might have a parallel there. So you have to check that out.
About jobs.
But the NIM and sort of the fulfillment of duty, right? But
Gotcha.
the other thing is what Daniel was saying about how sort of the loss of old things, and that I think that's Robert Jordan's thesis with this series, right? The fading of knowledge and things over time. So
yeah,
I think you're 100%
when time goes further, we forget or we lose like the details of what truly happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that came directly from that thing that I used in the beginning. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your
all right.
your thing. That's
no, I was done.
Okay.
So all right. So Green Man. Where? So
So one thing I thought the Green Man was cool. Like, you're in the Blight. There's all this evil. There's all this taint. There's all this evil. Everything's trying to kill you. All these living things are trying to kill you. But then you get to this beautiful forest that's just in the middle of all this mess and everything. There's flowers, trees. It's just the place to be. Take out a picnic lunch and have a sandwich and everything. So, but we get to this beautiful place, and of course there's they need to be taken to the Eye of the World right away. Well, what is the Eye of the World? Well, it's in this, I believe it's in a cave. It's in this hill. So there's this arch, and it's got the symbol of the ancient symbol of the Aes Sedai, I believe. And they go into this hill, and they find this eye-shaped pool of untainted Sidene. And the one thing that I really took away from when they go in there is just how repulsive it is to Rand. Like, he just feels completely repulsed by this Sidene, to the point where he wants to crawl through the walls to get away from it. And that's something that I took note. I mean, I listened to the audio, but then the thing is, when I listen to audio, because of my massive ADHD, I don't take in everything. So I usually will read it right after that, just so that if there was any details I missed, I will pick it up. But that was the one thing that I missed that I did pick up, was just the fact of how repulsed Rand was in that room. And I thought that was just really interesting. And I don't know if they ever explain why. Is it just because of how they feel about Sidene, based on what they know about Sidene? I'm curious if that ever gets addressed.
I'm curious everyone else what everyone else thinks. I took this as kind of two different two combined things, which is one, the Sidene represents madness and doom and destruction and death for any man who can channel, but also the much more pressing thing is being the dragon reborn as this terrifying prophecy and aspect and future for anyone that would not want to be that person, and Rand not wanting to face that is how I'm basically taking his rejection of Sidene.
Yeah, it's like literally making Rand's skin crawl, and it's just I thought that was really interesting.
Well, that
big detail to put into this.
There's a big well of power that he can tap into there.
Yeah,
like I mean, the biggest ever. So I mean, he could just be itching to actually subconsciously suck up all that power immediately, and because he doesn't know what he's doing yet. But that, I sort of took it that way, as his skin crawling wasn't even sort of like him being repulsed. It was just his body's reaction to that much power in front of him that he could actually use.
And the other thing that was interesting was that the Green Man refused to go in with them. I don't even know if he'd fit in there, but maybe he would. But he refused to go in there. He refused to go in there with them. So I thought that was another interesting thing. I'm curious why, but maybe it's the same. Maybe it's the same reason.
He was the guardian, right? It wasn't wasn't his thing to use. It was his thing to guard.
Yeah, and the thing was, he was never comfortable going near it. He never went near it.
I took it as
thousands of years he was guarding this thing.
It's not his place. He's a very formal being, and that's just simply not his job.
Yep,
I see. Okay, I thought there was more to it. I thought there was like just some sort of repulsion or something that even the Green Man felt too.
I mean, we don't necessarily know his emotional state about it, but I think there's nothing that's ever established that is keeping him out. So I've always interpreted it the way Daniel is.
Yeah. I have a chance to show something.
Oh my!
So give me, yeah. Well, I mean, I have two mugs. I have this mug in the back, and I have this mug. And if you want a different color, there's multiple colors. So there you go. So
are the red mugs more likely to get broken and sort of destroyed if you get the red Nerdporeal mugs?
I don't know why you would ask that.
Oh, okay. They just something about them seems expendable. That's all I was saying.
I don't know. I wouldn't know. It's made by the same people.
There's no such.
Just choose the color, and yeah.
There's no such precedence for that, Pips. That's a silly question.
Okay, all right. I apologize. I apologize.
No, but
I retract my question.
By the way, you gotta have a Prophet of the Dragon mug. I'm shilling for Steve, and if you guys have mugs, let me know, and I'll buy them. I have a job now, so I can, I have this thing called money. So
just out of
like the White Cloaks. Is there merchandise for the White Cloaks, Pips?
I actually have had for a long time some ideas of some shirts and some other stuff to make, and I've just never gotten around to making it. Honestly, I don't even know how. I'd have to talk to you guys offline and figure out how to make a store.
It's Teespring's pretty easy if that's what.
Yeah, Teespring's really. I know Teespring store is the one that everybody uses. So
it gets expensive though, but yeah, it's pretty easy. Sorry, what was Daniel saying? Daniel was going to say something.
I was going to ask if Brian's ever worn, just on a coincidence, ever worn a red shirt on a stream, or do you not
I have a red sweater that I think I like a little too much.
So you like rolling the dice, huh?
I don't know what that means, but sure. I don't know what that means.
We are far afield.
So like we find out that they are there because Moraine explains to them that they are there because they are Ta'veren, and that they have to fight. They have to fight here. They don't know. I don't know exactly what she knows, but she just knows that they have to fight, and they have to wait for the Dark One to strike, and they have to confront that. And so they're like, okay, sure. We don't know what that means, but sure. And then they go outside, And then all of a sudden, two men just show up. Two men just show up out of the blue. And we find out that they are, no jokes, they are Forsaken. We have two Forsaken that show up here. And their names are Agenor and Balthamel. So Balthamel I pictured as the Gimp from Pulp Fiction, but with a face. Don't ask me why. That's just how I envisioned it. Okay. Agenor I envisioned as Peter Cushing's Tarkin, but older. Like 80 years old, like 80 years old. And, right before, just like the gaunt face, white eyes, no pupils. I don't know why I thought that way, but I thought that. And
I wonder what the showrunners think they look like.
That's a.
Oh wait, my bad. All right, moving on.
God damn, seriously, you're serious?
I'm very serious.
That was nicely done. I like the way you set that in there. That was.
I am extremely serious. There is no Baltimore or Agenor in the TV show. We'll just rip that band up right now.
What is there? They just just talk about feelings.
There's Egwene, and there's Nynaeve, and there's Moraine.
There you go.
Fucking feelings and feelings.
There's this character. There's this character Steppen. There's this character named Steppen. He's a big part of the series.
Yeah.
A lot of time devoted to Steppen.
All right, we don't want to ruin this whole thing. We'll ruin all of the.
Steve is as cold as ice, man. That was,
he is.
That was
and he's
nasty.
and he's cold as ice. And he's willing to sacrifice our love. God damn it.
Yeah, he seems like such a friendly, nice guy, but no.
Yeah, sorry. Better him know now than wait for it to happen and it never happened. And he's like, what huh? What?
But I like Brian. I like your characterization. I think that the Tarkin and the Gimp. That I don't disagree with that.
I think that's pretty okay. Yeah.
I mean, but I like combine the Gimp with like Darth Vader, just like tall, imposing, but yet still, but then doesn't have the Darth Vader mask and everything. Just has that creepy. There's an anime character that I think wears like a face and the face changes, or I can't even think where that comes from. I've seen something like that before and something else. So
how did they hit you? Like emotionally? Did you have were they terrifying? Were they scary at all?
Yeah, Agenor. I mean, the fight with Agenor made me think of like anime. Like it just made me think of an anime moment when the chapter literally ends like the way a Japanese anime would end an episode, where they're in a major fight and shit's going down and everything. And of course,
this is like Frieza in Dragon Ball, where they land on Earth and just like no one could. Am I way far afield? Probably no one knows the references.
No. Yeah.
Not Frieza. I'm thinking of no, not Frieza. I'm thinking
Vegeta?
of Vegeta. When Vegeta and Nappa land on the planet,
he's over 9,000,
and no one could even touch him. The two of them. That's actually probably good because there's a pair of them, and that no one could even scratch them, because Moraine's throwing the one power at them, and they're just kind of like laughing it off, and it's pretty scary.
Like I think Balthamel gets the Green Man fights Balthamel, tries to like break his neck, or tries to break him, holds him,
and while him out in a real visceral, like that scene. Gosh, I mean, talk about scenes that would have looked great on TV, right?
Holy crap! You could have had just the most amazing scene. Yeah.
I think actually we saw Balthamel on the TV show. If you guys remember, there was like a skull in a tree.
Yeah, that might have been him.
Oh my gosh!
The show shills are telling us that.
Yes.
See, we saw it. That was there.
They actually honored him. If you look at frame 47.
Yeah.
Did you hear?
So this is okay. So now I'm remembering how this fight starts. So Land tries to charge at the Forsaken, and they're just like you. And so there was also some Star Wars. There was a little bit of I felt a little bit of Sith. There was some Sith aspects to this. That kind of.
I just love how they show up and they're just fully like, we're gonna kill you.
Yes.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised when I first read this. I was surprised. I'm surprised that. I was like, this just. I thought when I first read this, it felt like this just kind of came out of nowhere.
Well,
It was
also,
awesome, but it felt like this kind of came out of nowhere.
It does.
also the way that
It does.
so what Prophet said there, what Steve said about how they show up and they're just like, yeah, we're gonna kill you. So also we've shown like the boys their perspective of Lan and Moraine, and then what happens to Lan and Moraine when Agenor and Balthamel show up, right? So like
They are
it
completely
is establishing that like these people who are like, you know, everyone in the entire Borderlands knows who Lan is, right? The greatest, you know, swordsman, you know, like going into the Blight, you know, doing all this stuff. Moraine, she's this, you know, super powerful sort of, you know, magic user that we've seen stop entire like, you know, armies of Trollocs, right?
Yeah.
And like ragdolls and puppies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's just like you know, it's just once again, it's just like Dragon Ball. Every time you get further into the series, there's always somebody more powerful, and there's always someone to get scared of. That's the one thing I love about Dragon Ball is that they show powerful characters get scared, especially in the movie Battle of the Gods, where they introduce Lord Beerus, the purple cat god. And Vegeta is scared. Now, we've seen Vegeta through all of Dragon Ball Z. We know how powerful he ultimately gets, but he gets scared of this new being. And that's stuff that I really get a big kick out of. I just like seeing that. And I just like seeing that here with this and Wheel of Time. Like,
Moraine does freak out, doesn't she?
She screams. She at the end of chapter 50, the Rand is running away and he hears her scream.
Yeah.
And she gets, I mean, she claims, my pride was more injured than I actually was. But no, she was fucked up. Like she couldn't ride a horse. Like they had to carry her back to Faldara after the fact.
She was
and she needed help to get up. She needed help to simply stand up.
And that was Agenor not even paying attention to her.
Yeah. He was just like,
yeah.
And we have never seen throughout the entire story either Moraine or Lan scared or they're unfathomable. Yeah, they're unfathomable throughout the entire story.
But yeah, so Agenor kind of flicks Lan to the side. So Agenor kind of flicks Lan into the air. He's suspended right by, I believe, the arch to the Eye of the World, which kind of reminds me when Palpatine does that to Maul and Savage in the Clone Wars. He's like, "You become our rival," and then uses the Force on them and holds them up in the air. Kind of reminds me of that. And then of course Nynaeve, after we learn how affected she is, she's in love with Lan and everything, she charges for Balthamel, and Balthamar just does a Darth Vader, grabs her by the neck, and I think he even picks her up, like he's the larger of the two Forsaken.
They're lucky they're all not dead. If they were worth their time, they'd all be dead. That's that's how I take that whole scene, is they would have killed them all if they were worth the time, but they weren't.
And that's why they lived after that. So
it'd be like you walking into a daycare and just looking around at a bunch of little toddlers and going, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's
like, I don't. There's nothing. They can't do shit to me, so why bother? I'll get them out of the way. The goal is that big giant pool of Sidin. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and so Nynaeve is getting screwed, is getting choked, and then of course the Green Man intervenes. He's like, no one's gonna fricking hurt any living thing in my fucking, and this is me paraphrasing, of course, in my fucking backyard. So, and of course that's when the Green Man attacks Balthamel. Nynaeve gets released, and Balthamel is just shooting fire at the Green Man's face. He's being burnt, and one thing I forgot to mention, the detail, is he has like a scar. One thing they mentioned is he has a scar on his face.
Yep.
And I mean, I guess we'll never find out, but that was just a detail I forgot to bring up, and it's curious if there's a history. Good thing I'm drinking a shitty whiskey. And yeah, the Chivas was much better than this shitty $17 Ballantine shit. But yeah, all right, cool. All right, cool. That's great. That means I learned something. But yeah, so ultimately Balthamel dies, and the Green Man dies. They both kill each other. And the Green Man,
love how Green Man does that.
And the Green Man turns into like an oak, or Green Man like releases like a nut or an acorn, and it grows into an oak, and that's pretty much his memorial. And the thing that I loved, because the thing was, the fact that he's dead, the entire forest that he occupies is going to be swallowed up by the blight now because of his influence is gone.
Loyal.
So Loyal's prayer,
so good.
to maintain his memorial,
tree singing
meant something to me.
Yeah,
I love the Green Man, but it was so beautiful.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop doing that, or he might freak out. But yeah, that would have been amazing to see Loyal tree singing.
God damn it!
We got to stop. We got to leave some for the actual reaction pips. We got to stop.
That's true. That's true. Hey, Loyal has an important role in the final episode of the Wheel of Prime TV show.
Just don't say anymore. Don't say anymore. Yeah, but tree singing is very cool. It's used very, very sporadically and limited. So I think, but I think when he busts out the tree singing, it's very. He doesn't use it all the time, so when he does, it's very meaningful. I think when he does,
and his reverence is really great. It's such a huge moment, and it's such a part of his character.
Yeah, but here's now this is the juicy part. So Moraine, while Lan and while Nynaeve and the Green Man are trying to take on Balthamel, Moraine is trying to fight Agenor. And what does she do? She tries to crumble the ground from underneath Agenor, and there's nothing but, I think, flames that make up the pit that she created. And instead of falling, Agenor just simply walks on the air. He walks slowly, but he walks on the air. And the way I envisioned it was in the ultimate menacing factor. And it gets to a point where Moraine's like, "Run, get out of here!"
Moraine's going. Like, "We're fucked because I can't do anything against this guy." It's
it's nothing to him. He's just walking on the fucking air, and then it gets to a point where Egwene is just like, Egwene is trying to do something, and Rand pushes her aside. He's like, "Come to me," and then he runs and he flees. And that's how it's slowly. That's how chapter 50 ends. It's just him like eyeing Rand and going for him. And then sets up chapter 51, the final battle, the final fight. And chapter 51 was. Oh my God! I have to cover this.
We gotta leave all this.
I gotta cover this before you leave, Steve.
But I don't. No more show stuff from all of us. We gotta leave for the live reaction. I'm just saying for all of us, because I almost said it. I had to stop myself. So everybody, stop show stuff. We gotta leave it for the reaction. All right, go ahead. Because I almost fucked it up. I almost said something. So I just had to say that out loud. So if I start to say anything stupid, you guys stop me. Okay.
Sorry. So I have to ask. So I have to say hello to the artist formerly known as Salty Texas Sea, Salty Traveling Sea. Thanks for coming by. I've been enjoying the stream. I'm enjoying this read, and we gotta get this going. So Rand is now on the run. He's running up hills. He's trying to flee from Agenor, and the thing is, Agenor, despite being thousands of years old and looking like he's dead, he can just run up hills. He can walk up and run up hills like it's nothing because, well, he's a fucking Forsaken. So he gets up there, and there's a point where he gets cornered. He's up against a cliff. Agenor corners him, and it just gets crazy. All of a sudden, we get this glowing rope that just appears out of nowhere. And if I remember correctly, they're both kind of fighting over the rope, the glowing rope, and I'm assuming this is the eye of the world reacting to Rand's distress. If I remember correctly, I don't know for sure.
The glowing ropes aren't explained very well. I don't think. I mean, there's speculation. The rope is actually because there's black ropes coming out from. The black ropes are I think the black ropes are confirmed. The dark one, correct?
So we can
Balsamon.
It's not really a spoiler. It's just sort of an explanation, right? So the glowing ropes are the way you said it, the Eye of the World responding is not necessarily a bad way of saying it. It's their connection to the Eye of the World and the Sidene that is contained within it. So both of them are attempting to draw Sidene out of the eye, and that's what they're fighting for. That's why Agenor says that like he wants it for himself, doesn't want Rand to have it, and vice versa. Right? They're struggling over control of the well of Sidene.
And this is where Steve, I think, was right when he said earlier that Rand, when his skin was crawling, he was instinctively reaching towards Sidene. And so it's more of an instinctive reaction of his natural tendency to channel.
So I got a question. The Forsaken, the male Forsaken. So they've already used the Sidene and they are insane. Is that what it is?
No.
We didn't find out.
They're older than the.
We didn't find out.
Than the taint. Okay. Okay.
Well, that I think that's fine. There's more detail to it, but they are.
Moraine explains what the eye is in this book.
But this is pure Sidene, and it's just basically it's a huge.
That's not what he's asking. He's asking if the Forsaken are insane, and not because of a reason.
So the Forsaken existed prior to the original dragons. I know Ishmael was around. I don't know if the other 11. I'm assuming there's 12.
The Dark One and the Forsaken have been bound by the Creator at the moment of creation.
I thought the Forsaken were Aes Sedai.
Yes, correct.
You have to find this stuff out later.
You'll find out some more, but
they didn't always exist. Now the Dark One always existed.
It's a read and find out.
He's just fucking with you.
So I was just saying that's the mantra that all the characters continue to say is they say, it couldn't possibly be this. The Dark One and the Forsaken are bound in Sheo Ghul, bound by the Creator at the moment of creation. Yeah. That's the thing that they keep saying.
So yes, they're all ex Aes Sedai. Yes, they are. They were around before the taint. No, they're not all insane, and read to find out why.
Okay. All right.
That makes sense? Okay.
Yeah. So it gets to a point where they're fighting over the rope, and Agenor all of a sudden becomes younger, which I didn't really get. I didn't really get that. So he becomes younger, and then then because of all the power, he just gets consumed. Flames.
A lot of power.
So yeah.
I took that as the power healing him.
Yeah.
Healing him and then killing him.
Do you know why he was
himself?
Do you have an idea why he was old and that both of them were so decrepit looking?
Because they were thousands of years old and they were bound in Shale Ghul. I don't know.
Well, again, this is more read and find out. But
well, I think it's fair. I don't know. That's that big. I get what you're getting at, but
I don't want to give away a spoiler. But there's a reason why they're both so decrepit looking, and I think there's also a reason why
because they're evil.
Is healing
just like
now.
Palpatine. Evil makes you decrepit.
I'll defer to Pips. Pips, is this something we can explain?
So I think that we could. I just think that it's getting a little bit again into kind of like some of the theorizing, right? Yeah. It's a lot of this stuff is like it's never really explicitly said, so we can talk about it.
I mean, I don't know that it's explicit. It's alluded to why they're older and more decrepit than the rest of them.
Yes. Well, we don't know that they're older and more decrepit than the rest of them. We've only seen two.
The reason,
right? At this point, yeah, you're right.
I'm just going to say it unless everyone thinks I.
Nah, it's fine. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's a big point.
The reason they're both old is they were closest to the boar. They were closest to the real world, and so time was grinding them. And so,
okay.
Which I think
that's why the same reason why they escaped.
Yes,
they were closest.
They escaped first. Yeah. Correct.
Exactly.
Yes, they escaped. I think they actually said that. Did they?
They were close.
They were closest to the
wheel.
They were closest to like the
fine.
The
thing I think is the line.
Yeah, so they were closest to. Yeah, they were closest to escaping, so they got out first. But time also fucked them over.
And I specifically remember, I believe the terminology, the language being something about being grounded.
I think the line is something akin to like the wheel of time grinds exceedingly fine or something like that over the millennia.
Yeah.
I just think that they, why they physically look old and why he gets the impression of him becoming younger as he's drawing on Sidene. I don't think that really gets explained, and there's some theorizing that can go along there, but I think it's not necessarily a conversation we have to have, given that Steve's got to get out of here and all that stuff.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
okay, so Agenor is gone, and all of a sudden, and I'm gonna assume this. Rand uses teleportation to transport himself to Tarwin's Gap, where they're meeting where Algamar's forces are meeting the Trolloc host. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think that's Has no idea how he did it.
Not-
But yeah.
Right. Yeah, he's not consciously doing it, but I think it's actually more. Well, there's a conversation that occurs, and I think the root of the conversation, who it's coming from, moves him there.
So there's 3 types of traveling, if you want to use the word traveling, which is really only one of the 3. But if there's 3 types of traveling that he does in the end of the Eye of the World, and it's something like this whole thing will make a lot more sense as you read later in the series, because right now you have to understand this is all through Rand's perspective. He is confused, he is terrified, and doesn't understand what he's seeing, and he's instinctively reacting with things and not really knowing what he's doing.
That's what I like about. That's actually what I really like about this chapter is because we're with him, we're in his mind. We don't know what's quite going on either. So yeah.
I think this chapter harkens back to the chapters on the road with Matt, with the red scarf and the farmer that repeats, because the memories and recollections are jumbled in his own head, right? Whereas here, the memories aren't jumbled. You're living it real time, but he doesn't understand how to put the pieces into a way that makes sense. So this is his brain trying to make sense of what's happening. And that's why you get these sort of,
don't read chat
things.
Don't read chat, Nerdporeal. We're trying to save that for our rewatch. Salty, thank you very much. Don't read chat.
Okay, I won't read.
Don't read chat.
All right,
but Amanda Manethrin says something about a voice. This is the part I wanted to talk about. The voice.
I knew you did. You did.
The voice. I've fought people in this about the voice in this series before.
I'm with you on this one, man.
Okay, I want to hear. Go ahead. The voice.
So Greenporeal, Nerdsaken, sir. When we say the voice and Tarwin's Gap, do you know what we're talking about?
I will not take part.
There's a point where Rand doesn't
take part.
Rand, huh?
That's
what
Steve said.
I will not take part. That's speaking to Rand.
So
I will not take part. I will not intervene or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he says.
Yeah, this is not the place. I will not take part. There's a couple lines.
Yeah.
It's in the book, and I know you're reading the actual book. You're not doing audiobook, right?
I've been doing both.
Okay. Did you audiobook or did you read this the Tarwin's Gap scene?
I believe I did both, actually.
Okay.
I listened to it, and the thing is with me, I easily get distracted, so I had to read it because I'm sure there was a lot of things I missed.
So the voice is a thing that happens in Tarwin's Gap, and it's in the book. It's all caps. So someone talks to Rand in all caps, sort of text.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't remember that.
It's a bit of interesting, I guess, controversy, or at least something.
I'm curious what I would like to. I'm curious where you're going because we haven't talked about this. Me and you.
So
Nathan.
So here's the line. I'll read it to you, and you remember. So the voice says a couple things. It says, "It is not here. I will take no part. Only the chosen one can do what must be done if he will. Not here."
Oh, okay, I remember the chosen one part.
That's the part that most people remember, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I like the only. So I will take no part. The chosen one can do what must be done if he will. So my question is, what did you think about this when you were reading it? Did you have a reaction?
Well, the first thing that came to mind was the prequels. I'm wondering if George Lucas stole from this book.
I think actually He might have.
Hearing "Do What Must Be Done" made me think of
it wouldn't be the worst adaptation of Eye of the World that's happened.
Yeah,
It's true. It's true. It's probably closer.
I guess it was the dragon talking to him, because apparently the dragon can reincarnate because of the wheel, nature of the wheel, and everything.
So there are some people who think that might be the answer.
It's the creator.
I thought this was confirmed by Robert Jordan himself.
It has never been confirmed.
Ah.
It is Robert Jordan always gave a read and find out answer to this. The only things that were confirmed was that
we drink every time we read it.
Yep. It would appear again and does appear again in A Memory of Light. That's the
final book, right?
Yes. Yeah. That was something that both he, Brandon Sanderson, and Harriet all said. My theory has always been that it's the creator.
The creator.
That's
how I always interpret it.
I asked that question if there was a creator, and I was told no.
By who?
Not me.
There was no Iluvatar. There was no equivalent to Iluvatar.
There isn't a.
He doesn't take part.
It was last. I don't know if it was the last one or the one before.
That might have been somebody in chat that said that. I think, right?
No, so on the panel. Maybe it was Nathan. I don't know. Don't mean to call you out.
No, it wasn't me.
So now that you say that, no equivalent of a Iluvatar, I do actually remember that from, I can't remember if it is chat or a panel member. I disagree. I think that the creator is very much real and does.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. That's why I was confused when I read creator. I was like, okay.
Look, the whole series is about two halves of a whole. You got a dark and a light. So if there's a dark one, there's definitely a creator, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's one that creates and there's one that destroys.
So the creator depends
nature
on
of humanity. There's always going to be darkness.
The dragon is his hand,
might have
right?
spoiled the ending of the story myself by accident, but yeah.
How did you spoil it by accident?
Well, Wikipedia.
I don't know.
You can't Google this book.
There's a lot between there and there. You're fine.
I know there is, but yeah, I know. Yeah. I know, but I kind of, it made sense to me. It made sense.
Yeah, the creator. The whole series is about yin yang. Women, male, two halves of one whole. There can't be a dark one without a creator.
I do think that the creator is more of a mysterious being than Iluvatar, though, because we have Valinor, we have much more obvious indicators of Iluvatar in Tolkien's world.
Now the question is, do we get more insight into religion? Like, do they worship the creator? Do we get to see that? We know about the dark one. Everybody knows about the dark one. But what about the creator?
You see several groups that I think would count as sort of religious sects.
Yeah.
So
are the White Cloaks one of them?
Probably.
Some of them.
Walking the
I
light.
would say yes. I mean,
the lights they're something.
They're not. They're not particularly religious in their the things that they do, but they definitely are akin to, and Robert Jordan specifically based them off of the Crusader Knights. So they are a religious order, with the religion being the universal religion of the entire world. Like nobody in the world doesn't think that there's a creator and a dark one. It's pretty much just an aspect of the world.
For that reason, I think you could do an entire show just talking about this, because of the world, everyone knows there's a creator, and the one power is the obvious source is from the creator. We don't have religions in the sense we do in this world.
So, and I'm interested for you to get further along, because there's something to talk about with that too. Because obviously the one power is from the creator, but it's funny because you think about how hands-on the Dark One is trying to take over the world, whereas the creator is completely the opposite. He's completely hands-off. So, you don't really know he's there, but he is, right? I mean, so he only talks to one person ever for one line, basically, right? So I never thought that was in doubt. I thought 100% when I read it, that's the creator, and that's it for me.
Yeah. So and just to kind of get this moving, so Rand is in the battle. He summons lightning, dispatches the drag car that are in the air. I was like, oh, cool.
This is a sweet
And
scene.
And then we get like, then
It
I
is.
think, what does he
One
do
of my
next? I
favorites.
think he creates a flame wall. He creates
Yeah.
a flame wall and it engulfs like all the
Yeah.
Trollocs. And I think
earthquake and flames and stuff. Yeah.
He just
and
decimates
earthquake
the whole freaking
and-
army of Trollocs.
Could you
Yeah.
imagine what that would look like on? Oh God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he completely decimates.
Daniel! Shit! Son of a...
Steve was holding it in. He was like, Steve's like, hey, I know no November is done, but like I'm holding it. I'm holding the line. And then Daniel just
Daniel,
splooshes all over the place.
Daniel, you do understand now. Steve's going to make a rage video strictly about you now.
I want it. I want to see it. I want to see Steve break his keyboard in half.
It'll happen in season 2. Tune in. Okay, sorry. I gotta go soon. So, but yeah. So yes. So he decimates the Trollocs.
Yeah.
And as Daniel said, in case you didn't hear
At
it, actually, I
the
won't
critical
repeat
moment.
it. So.
At the critical moment, saves
Can you- no,
the Shi'arans.
So can you imagine? I think you actually get Ingtar. Is it Ingtar or Agomar's view of what they comment on seeing the creator in the sky, and he came to
Agomar.
Is it Agomar that said the creator came and saved them? Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Agomar. Yeah, it was Agomar.
Also,
Ingtar was still late in getting there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Ingtar,
Ingtar
I don't
was-
think
was-
Ingtar
yeah,
ever
yeah.
got there.
You
never
get
made
that.
it.
You get that from Ingtar. I don't know if that's a great hunter in either world, but he's pissed off because he didn't make it. It was done when he got there. Yeah.
Yeah, so now we're in Balzamon's chamber for the final confrontation. So we've been in this chamber multiple times throughout the book, and here it is. We're here, and he confronts Balzamon, and Balzamon plays a little psychological attack. I've seen this before in shows, movies, you name it. He brings out his mother. He brings out his mother and Egwene and Nynaeve, and he violates them. I think he has his mother violated in front of him. Like, that's fucked up.
Do we really think that's his mother?
I don't know.
That was the other question, because he never knew his mother, right? Like he was never old enough to know what she even looked like, unless they somehow had photographs in this world. But I think they do.
I think he has very early memories of her, right?
It's just an illusion.
And
Because I always thought
like
it was just an illusion.
Like
She's not
he remembers
fucking-
Carrie Althor. I will say I don't think that it's actually his mother, mainly because I don't think it can be.
I always thought it couldn't be, but then the Dark One has power over death, so there's a
but
window there.
Yeah, but there's rules to that, and I don't want to get into it to fuck up. I don't want to mess up for Nerdporeal, but even when he's fucking around with that shit, there's rules to death. So I think,
because the Dark One doesn't know who Rand is until the events of the Eye of the World. I don't think it can be Carrie Althor.
Couldn't put her on ice or something or something. Right?
Yeah,
I'm right.
I mean
there
that whole scene. I mean, it's kind of like him talking to Rand and being an unreliable narrator. With that, he's he's putting it out there like that as playing tricks on Rand's mind.
Yes,
to do so, and he does so very convincingly because of maybe any little bit that he may know about her specifically, but because he couples it with Egwene and Nynaeve, that association for Rand, because she's unknown, becomes very visceral to him, and it becomes an emotional attachment there. And I think that's why he perceives it as his mom.
And it's taking place in a place where Balzamon would be able to do that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Continuing. Yeah. Sorry.
And of course, ultimately, I think I don't remember if like the sword just materializes, but he gets a sword and he slays the Murdral. I believe it's Murdral that are violating his mother or something. Slays them, and then there's a big giant black cord that's eating his little glowing cord, and he just takes it and slices the shit out of it and causes Balzamon to spring back into the fireplace and burns to a crisp. But then again, the thing is, I believe this is a dream world. So the question is he truly dead? Stay tuned
And
for
find
part
out.
2 to find out.
You got it.
The Wheel of Time Part 2, Balzamon's Revenge. Okay, I was basing that off of Freddy Krueger. So, but yeah. So, but yeah,
Catching on though. Good job.
He's not
Good
dead.
job.
He's not dead. He's not, in my opinion.
He's only
not
mostly dead.
Which is still a little bit alive.
Yeah.
When
Right.
they're all dead, there's only one thing to do usually.
Even on a
Look through their
reread,
pockets for some loose change.
there's so many unreliable, like you guys are talking about, unreliable narrators, the point of view of Rand when he's confused and doesn't really understand what's going on, dream world versus real world. There's so many different reasons and not excuses necessarily, but yeah, there's so many different answers to what's really happening that upon rereads, you still can have these questions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Rand
to
continues.
be totally honest, like that repeat chapter that you referenced, not repeat chapter, but that repeat passage you referenced earlier, Pips, I still get confused with all of that stuff because it's very difficult for me to sit there and continually stick in, okay, Rand unreliable as a narrator and he's in this state of confusion. And I'm just habitually a reader that I'm like, okay, these are all factual things that are written down on a page.
Mhm.
and it's very tough to sit there and put myself into the mindset that, okay, I need to learn how to take some of these things with
So
the experience of the individual learning it as he's going.
yeah, so I think the thing is that Robert Jordan uses a very strict sort of third person limited point of view. I think that's the right term, right? So like it's in the third person, so it's not like I, right? It's Rand did these things instead of I did this, right? But it's third person limited is that the point of view only knows the things that he knows and is inhabiting his mind, so you get their thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, with the exception of, I think, one chapter and then little fragments of other chapters, that chapter being the prologue of the Eye of the World, everything is in that frame of that third person limited perspective. And so the conversation about the unreliable narrator, I think, is definitely an aspect of his storytelling, and Rand specifically is this way. Some of the other characters as well, but like Rand is a really poor narrator up through probably the Dragon Reborn, and then he starts to figure his shit out a little bit better, right? But the first couple books, like he has a lot of like weird sort of supernatural kind of experiences that he doesn't know how to process. So you'll have to continue to like view his story that way.
Which is why I think you get, like you talked about with the Eye of the World, where Steve and Brian can see it two different ways, like with the sighting, in the pool and how Rand reacts to it.
Can I ask you a question here about like, were you confused at all by the ending?
Yeah. Actually, I had to reread that.
So okay, so you had to reread it. When you reread it, were you still confused?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think you were confused in a way that would have made it difficult to like tell the story, or do you think the story has a problem, or do you think that it was written to be a little bit confusing? Like,
I think it was the latter. I feel this was something that's going to probably be fleshed out more later.
Okay, it's one of the things that people who like,
because Rand doesn't understand what's going on. He lost control.
Yeah,
he doesn't understand what's going on.
One of the arguments made about why the show couldn't be the books was because the Eye of the World's ending is so bad because it's confusing.
It's not bad. See, give me a break.
I know those people are wrong. They're wrong. But I just wanted to get
confusing with purpose. Look, confusing with purpose breeds good storytelling later on. Hello.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, guessing, again, keeps you wondering. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Nick.
Yeah. No, you're fine. I mean, going with what I was saying earlier, I'm a very literal reader. So when I sit there and I read that passage, the first time I read through that the last part of that book, the first time I did, I'm sitting there thinking, that was a great book. I'm not really sure how it ended, but okay, here's the Great Hunt, and then I absolutely love the Great Hunt. But this read through that I just got done doing, it was really probably the first time out of the read-throughs that I've done on this first book that I sat there and thought, okay, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on throughout the whole thing, but it takes it does take a little bit of time to understand how Robert Jordan's writing it really
Okay.
to really get it as how it's intended to be.
I totally agree with that. I think the Eye of the World generally and the ending specifically makes way more sense on a reread than it does on a first read.
Yeah.
But I also want to say that I think the perspective that there was a problem with how the book was confusing, and it's something that had to be fixed, right? So people who wanted to fix that aspect in the adaptation, I think the story is actually damaged by trying to do that. Like if you like it's supposed to be confusing, like you said, Steve, it's confusing for a purpose.
Right.
And
well, those are the people that don't understand storytelling and don't understand anything. And this is, and just before because I got to take off, but it's one of those they don't understand good storytelling. They don't understand that everything doesn't have to make sense. They don't understand that mystery and being confused about certain things is good, because then when you find out what's going on, you're like, oh shit, okay, I understand that now. And these people aren't qualified to fix a hole in the fucking goddamn, my shirt. They can't fix shit. So the hubris that they think that they can fix anything, even if it needed fixing, is ridiculous. And you can tell from the first freaking episode, they fixed Edmonds Field and made it worse by freaking 208,000%. It's like, well, we need to see this, because no, you don't need to see it. You made it worse by showing us this stuff. You've made it worse, and you've taken all this other stuff out, and you've made it worse because you are too stupid, or your viewers are too stupid, or you think your viewers are too stupid to put the stuff together in your brain and go, oh, okay, I see what you're putting on the screen here for me. I can put 1 and 2 together and make 3. It's just, whatever.
It's an epidemic of ego. It's why that they wrote the story that Tolkien couldn't write.
I think Robert Jordan.
So Steve, you said you gotta go.
Yeah, I want to hear what Daniel had to say real quick, but then I'm gonna jet. Sorry.
Just that Robert Jordan is such a good author that we have almost a fairy tale ending here that is almost written on like a multi-dimensional level, because if this was one book, you could conceivably see this being the end of the story, but it doesn't have to be. And the story obviously does continue throughout the series. So he's doing many things at once with this ending.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. But I got a jet. What were you going to say, Nerdporeal?
I was going to say, Steve, you wanted to, plug anything before you go?
You guys all, most of you know me, I need to, anybody that watches this that is interested in doing some Cosmere stuff, hit me on Discord or in Twitter. I know Man of Manetherin's in the middle of Way of Kings, so we're definitely going to talk about that, but I'd like to do some Mistborn stuff.
Great
and
series.
just Cosmere in general. I'd talk about the Lost Metal and all that, and Era 2, all of it. I'd like to start talking Cosmere stuff when I got time. So
I gotta ask you, Steve, when are we gonna do Breath of Fire again?
If you do it like I'm on overnight, yeah, I love that book. It gets a lot of Way of Kings gets a lot of Eye of the World stuff. There's like people don't like Eye of the World because it's too confusing or it's too drawn out. I feel like Way of Kings is sort of the same way. There's a lot of detail in there that you're paying attention, that they're playing the long game on, and it pays off later in Way of Kings. So if you start reading Way of Kings and you're a little confused, plug through. It's worth it. So message me on Discord about anybody who wants to do Cosmere, because I would like to get a list together. Daniel, we got to do something. We're long overdue doing something on Wheel of Time. Breath of Fire, I'm on overnights all week. So if you want to do it a little earlier in the night, like if you can start like at 7, I can, whatever. I 10, I'm actually... I bought a half hour, told him I was going to be a little late, so I actually should have been gone probably around 10. So almost an hour ago now. So I got to be wrapped up by 10. Anything we do. So just let me know if you can be wrapped up by 10. And I know
10 your time, right? 10 Eastern.
10 Eastern, so 9 Central for you. I know Nos was asking about it. I'm just trying to figure out what game I'm going to start playing again, but we're going to start doing the game stream again in the morning.
I really want to do. I want to play Mario again. I want to play Mario
Odyssey.
You. No, just like Mario. Believe it or not, Mario All Stars.
Oh, okay.
You and your son. You and you and me and Easton will talk Mario, lore and all that shit. So
Sounds good.
Yeah. So all right.
All right. Gotta
Steve,
roll. Thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us.
As always, you guys are awesome.
You've taken almost every Sunday since House of the Dragon started to join us. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Whenever I'm available, just work gets in the way sometimes. But yeah.
Thank you, man.
So always.
Yes,
all right. We'll talk to you all
Steve.
later soon. Bye.
Take care. Bye. See ya. All right. Now there were 4. All right. All right. So final.
That Steve guy, man.
I know.
Do you mind if I tag on to kind of what we were talking about before he signed off there? So the conversation about why people would want to kind of fix it and that issue, I think both of you guys had some good insights. I think Nate, what you said was probably exactly how I feel about the hubris, because the way I look at it is it makes sense when you think that that people these days are like, they're ideologues, right? So they're convinced that like they alone are the receptacle of the truth, and that everything that they know is some sort of like, moral virtue truism, that there's only the truth and then all of the misinformation and not truth. There's no room for conversation and debate. There's no shades of gray. There's no nuance. Right. Exactly. And this is what happens. You have people who are so used to having clear cut, black and white, spoon fed, like my college professor told me that this is what it is and that's what it is, right?
Yeah,
and so they read a book like that, and they
believe they're in the moral, and I'm going to say this, they believe they're in the moral high ground compared to history, compared to people in history.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm like, that's immature thinking.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was a child,
the thing that brings about wisdom is knowing that we're no fucking different from anybody else, that we still have to learn and we have to grow ourselves.
To use a Wheel of Time character, they're all Dane Bornhold.
Is that a Wheel of Time character, or is that a White Cloak?
It sounds like a zealot.
White Cloak. Yeah.
They are zealots, but I think more than just being zealots, right? I think what you said about immature thinking, like it is this idea that they can't process something that is ambiguous, right? They don't feel comfortable in that space, right? Because being comfortable with nuance and ambiguity is actually what happens as you mature and you develop and you become a little bit wiser and you recognize that that's the way the world works, right? When I was a child, right? And I already said this before, when I was a child, I thought like a child, and that is what's happening, right? I can remember thinking about the world that way, and thank goodness I grew up.
Yeah, well, that's a fantastic point, because it's thinking that you're a bigger thing than what you are, and when you sit there and think that you can correct something that was already written the way it was intended to, and edited the way it was intended to be, and presented the way it was intended to be, and to say that everybody down that line screwed it up and you're the one to correct it, is insane to me. Never in the thoughts of these people is the idea of maybe there's something wrong with the way I'm looking at it. And humility in anything that you're reading is a big freaking deal. It plays such a huge role in your enjoyment to be able to to be able to really love the medium. And that's why Tolkien is such an amazing read, and why Jordan is such an amazing read, because these guys write in ways that I could never even imagine when I sit there and look at what they've accomplished with what they've written.
Or even to not assign right or wrong, and just realize that other people have a different story to tell, and they told the story they wanted to tell. And hey, maybe someone is wrong about something. It's like H.P. Lovecraft, who I don't have a problem with, but people say, "Oh, he was a terrible person." I don't care. I don't care.
The both of them had, real world experience. Both of them went to war. I mean, I didn't even know this until I started reading, and until I started doing this stream with you guys. That I didn't even know Robert Jordan was, Vietnam, veteran and all that, and they killed people.
Yeah.
So that was, So
Huge,
I'm
huge
curious. I'm
impact.
curious if his idea for the void, that meditation, came from his experiences in war. That was one thing I did want to bring up at some
prayer.
point.
I think that he has said, I'd have to go look. I think he's answered in Q&As that the flame in the void he took from many cultures and religions' idea on prayer and meditation and sort of thing,
Or like Eastern, like your Buddhism, your Jainism.
A lot, all of them.
And yeah, all of them, honestly. So one of the things to take note, and I think that reinforces this, is that the flame in the void has different names that we encounter throughout the series with different cultures. And some of them are like very directly related to certain kind of cultural things. The flame in the void, obviously less so, but I think Nathan, is right that there's an aspect of prayer to it. I think there's definitely an aspect of just meditation in lots of different faiths. And,
It's a lot of people talk about how the older authors lived life, like you're talking about, Brian, and they went to war, they had real jobs, they worked with their hands, they were out in the world. And then I don't even know if you need to assign specific experiences they have, but just the fact that they experienced life at all colors their work.
They had to actually go get wisdom before it was, before they had something to say about stuff, And,
well, as your brain's developing your own wisdom through a bunch of pot smoking and drum circles is not the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm assuming, I don't know if he was, I don't know how long he was in Vietnam for. I think he did a couple of tours or something. But while he was fighting and his life was on the line, I mean, there's other boomers were fucking around, doing drugs and protesting and everything.
And spitting on him when he got back.
Yeah, and spitting on him when he got back. And of course, I mean, I don't want this to get too political, but based on what I'm seeing now with certain behaviors, I wouldn't be surprised if the fruit didn't fall far from the tree. Emphasis on the fruit. That was wrong. Sorry.
The views of the Nerdporeal are not necessarily the views of the other members of the panel.
Wow, when the white cloaks
shadow band,
we'll never let that one down.
If a white cloak is disavowing you, that's pretty bad.
You can never walk so long in the darkness that you can't go back to the light.
I think I put that in the chat earlier. We're good. We got our bases covered.
Yeah, you did. So, but yeah.
So where were we in the story?
The final battle's over.
It's kind of the end.
The cord, and there's just there's two more chapters that just kind of wraps everything up. So apparently,
we get a couple new MacGuffins, right?
Yeah. So apparently, they go back. And only so here's the thing: Matt, Perrin, and Loyal do not know that he is that he can do all this stuff. Like, it's only Moraine, Lan, because Lan has to know, and of course Nynaeve and Egwene, because they're going to go become Aes Sedai. So ultimately, in the next book, I believe they're going to be their points of view are going to be different from Rand's. So, but then again, I guess I got to find that out. But they know about that. And the other big thing was Rand brings up stuff that Balsamon says. He brings up Jane Farstrider, and he also brings up the Black Aja, and talks about, like, I don't want to be. He's like, I do not want to be a pawn, or was it, of the Aes Sedai. Mm-hmm. And of course, Moraine is like, well, you're listening to the father of lies, so that's kind of demeaning what you're saying and all that.
Seems like a bad call, bro.
Yeah. So he's just like, I am not going to Tarvalon, and I'm not going to be, as they say, gentled, or
I'm not going to be used,
or they're gonna cut him off from the Force or something, because
it's the start of angsty Rand.
Yep.
Which is probably Rand, like, that's the least. That's
okay,
the
so
worst
we're gonna
Rand
get more angsty Rand. Oh, I can't wait.
What's the book? A Harry Potter book? The where he is his angsty age.
5.
Like, is it the 5th book? I think
he's
Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah,
the Phoenix.
That's where I hated Harry. And
I
was just
wanted to
like,
reach into that
"Ugh."
book and strangle that motherfucker.
Me
That was
too.
That's the one where Sirius Black gets offed.
Yeah.
He is such a little petulant. Yeah.
Yeah. But between him and Umbridge, I didn't know which one I wanted to kill more in that
No.
book.
I hated Umbridge. I think Umbridge was the most evil of all the Harry Potter characters. Like
Great
I hated
villain.
her.
Great,
and she comes
well-written
back
villain.
in the 7th book, and I was just like, ugh. So,
Yeah, you got a government administrator. It's a perfect villain.
I know. It's almost like it's the government.
Ministry of Magic. What can I say?
But Pips, you're
the
right.
scariest words in the English language, right? Scariest 2 sentences.
I'm from the government. I'm here to help.
Exactly.
Holy shit! We forgot to bring up one character. Paddon Fane.
Oh,
shit.
Bring him up.
Wow.
We totally forgot Paddon
We
Fane.
totally forgot Paddon
Holy cow.
Fane.
Boy.
I mean, other than some really good stuff, I will say, I don't know how much longer we want to be here. I think I can give you some interesting,
like in a few minutes, because I know you guys got to get up early for work. I have to get up soon myself.
So some interesting things to think of for Paddon Fane is his ability to kind of like, see and sense Rand specifically.
Yeah, he was like they made him that, so he was kind of I couldn't help, and I felt this way about the first book. He was kind of captured. He was kind of like, he's a dark friend, but he was treated like Gollum, and it got to a point where he was just like completely. He was like just tracking them, kind of like the way Gollum or Smeagol was tracking the ring, but instead of the ring, he was tracking Rand or the three of them. I don't remember exactly, but he was after them. Like he was Bloodhound, and he knew better than even the Trollocs and even the Fades. But of course, he's treated as the lowest of the low. Like, so when they go back to how like he was treated, he had to run with the Trollocs. It made me think of how Merry and Pippin were captured in Lord of the Rings. I just couldn't help that. And I think they even said how much they were gonna eat Paddon Fane at some point. I don't remember.
Threatened to. They even put him in the
Threatened to eat
cookpot,
him,
I think, at one point. Right?
Meat, like even though he's so meat's back on the menu, boys. I guess I don't know, but he was the one that was behind them. He was in the ways. He was in the ways. He was in the ways.
Yes,
and he gets engulfed by Machine. What's the name? Machine Shin. A very Dragon Ball like name, by the way. Machine Shin. And Machine Shin is freaked out by Paddon Fane. Like, Machine Shin engulfs him, but then runs away. So there is something about Paddon Fane, and Moraine says he is lower than vile. He is beyond vile. He might be able to be redeemed or healed, but she's like, I don't think so.
He's like the most dirtiest human she's ever encountered.
And the thing is, I spoiled myself. I know what happened to him, because they go all the way back. He was in frickin' fuck the name. I can't think of that city.
Shadar
Logoth. And I spoiled it for myself. So he's got another being in him, another evil being.
Yeah. So I think the thing with Paddon Fane is he is both of the two fundamental types of evil that we experience in the series kind of together, right? So Shadar Logoth is the evil that man creates, right? Yeah. The capable evil that we ourselves have within us, at least in sort of Robert Jordan's cosmology, right? And then there's the evil of the Dark One, and he's been given both, right? Like,
so is it the evil of the Dark One? Is it just destructive, just simple destructive, mindless destruction?
No, I wouldn't say that.
It might be best summarized, and maybe you guys disagree with me about this, that it might just be like the desire to dominate.
So kind of like Sauron.
A little bit, maybe.
It's that with with an extreme amount of chaos, but not like chaos that is uncontrolled wanton destruction. It's chaos with a purpose of specific pain, anguish, torture, intent.
Yeah, there's definitely maliciousness and like sadism and
Yeah.
things in it, right? But it's I think the domination, like to make the world kneel, is I think what is the ultimate goal, to the extent that we know what the goal is, right?
Yeah,
And focused on a particular focal point
I
as a means to that.
I really relate it a lot with Satan in terms of a fallen angel, in terms of petulance and hatred of the creator.
In that analogy, what do you guys think? Is Rand Job? I've kind of always liked that particular metaphor, because you just kind of like you just made me think of it again. The duality, the fact that the creator definitely exists in my mind, that's what happens in Tarwin's Gap. I've always viewed Rand as Job,
because he's the object of Fane's.
He's being put through the test. He's being put through the ringer.
Boy, that is interesting.
I have to think about that.
Nathan's like, I need to write some books.
Well, you're hitting all sorts of theological things in my mind with that, and I just kind of like, wow, that's if that's what Jordan wrote that relationship to be, that is like 4D chess squared. That's pretty damn good.
The tough thing with this is that we never really know, because Robert Jordan didn't write the ending, right? Like he did and he didn't, right? So like he wrote the ending. We know that from Sanderson, that like he did write it. We don't know which specific parts of the ending he wrote. You know what I mean? We don't know how much of those things got tweaked and changed to fit in. So it's hard for us to tell. But I think that the notes of the ending, I think, are definitely still there. I think that the bones of the ending he intended are there. And in my mind, The Eye of the World and A Memory of Light connects to tell that story. And the suffering of Job, I think, is...
So is the creator testing Rand? Is that what you're thinking? That's why you think he's Job?
I'm not sure that I ever actually think, and I'm maybe not the qualified person. Nathan is more qualified. I don't view Job as the creator, or as God was testing Job. I think that God knew that Job. Well, my interpretation is that God wasn't actually testing him. He allowed Satan to do his best, but he knew the way Job was going to go.
But that's part of the test. That's why in like the 23rd chapter. Sorry, I'm going to quote verses here, but that's why Job says, he knows the way that I take, and when he has tested me, I shall come forth as gold. So I mean, it is a specific test that Satan asks permission to do, because Satan couldn't touch him without permission from God. So he goes and approaches God, tries to tempt God, says, okay, God says, you can do this, but you can't do this. And then comes back out and says, oh, well, but you didn't let me do this. And he's like, okay, go do this, but you can't do this. And so Satan's under specific instruction that he can do what he wants up to a certain point.
Yeah.
But all of that, even though it's Satan's intent to do that, Satan's intent is to make Job do what Job cannot do, which is deny God. And God is testing him to show him, and to test him in the manner, not to test him to see if he is gold. It's to test him to prove that he is what God made him to be.
And I think we're saying the same thing, and I maybe just didn't say it nearly as well as you did. I just meant that I don't think God's purpose was to test Job. I think that God allowed Job to be tested, but that it wasn't. That wasn't what he set out to do. That's not what the story is about. And I think similarly, the creator isn't
perspective in that testing.
Yes.
Satan's perspective versus God's perspective in that testing.
Yes.
This is a tough comparison, because in the story Wheel of Time, the creator actually has a lighter touch on the world than in Christianity. Frankly, the creator is the touch is extremely light. And
It's
so
a New Testament God versus Old Testament God.
yeah, so you're looking at just the comparisons are not one to one, even though the creator is essentially the
Yes.
creator.
Right.
You know,
Well, yeah, to that point, Daniel, like even if we can sit there and look at this as a Job Poddenfane to Rand as a Job to Satan kind of relationship.
I'm sorry, I wasn't
Now,
thinking
if it,
Padme. I was thinking the Dark One, and through him his minions, right? So you have the Dark One, which is Satan,
okay,
and you have the Creator, which is God, and you have Rand, which is Job.
Yeah.
In the story, like writ large
okay.
across the series, in my
Okay.
mind, that it is a sort of Job narrative.
And it is. I mean, like
Not
mine is
not
the beginning of the direct touching type
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah,
So I always thought the dragon was messianic. So I thought, obviously, well,
he is in a
Jesus.
way. There's a lot of prophecy involved with him. There are signs that he has to fulfill, but he's not a prophet in that he's giving prophecy. He's fulfilling prophecy, but prophecy revolves around him. And yeah,
It's
there are definitely aspects that attribute to on different facets there.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's where the world building that Robert Jordan does that comes into play with all of this, where it is very good because he sits there and takes these perspectives and puts them in places that are central to a character that he's developed for that, how he's going to have that arc going
this
forward.
does build very interesting in a couple books where this exact question weighs heavily on Rand himself, Brian. Like he starts to wonder these exact things about what is his purpose and involving prophecy and what will he actually leave behind. And so these questions weigh on him. It's like the fourth dimensional when you're reading this, because it's like you're curious about it, and so is Rand. It's like never ending story. It's like you're entering the story with him in a way.
but without the flying dog dragon.
Yeah.
Luck dragon, Pips. Luck dragon. Jeez.
Falcor. Falcor's the dragon reborn.
Yeah. But yeah. So all right. Yeah. So that was a great stream. And I have to bring up the 3 McMuffins that are brought up here. So we get a piece. What?
Sorry.
I want to make a late night McDonald's run now.
I did have one. I did go for a walk this morning. I did stop off and get one this morning, even though it's against my meal plan, but it's a weekend, so I fuck it. But we get the little piece. I think it's the it's the Hearthstone. I forget what they call it in the
Quendular.
Quendular. Okay, Quendular.
Yeah.
And it's like 2 pieces that come together, and we find out it's one of the stones of it's one of the seals, one of the 7 seals of the Dark One. So because it's in half, that I'm assuming that it means the seal is broken on that particular one. Kaput. Okay.
On this hard substance that can't be broken by anything known to man, it's broken.
And then the second McMuffin, and I will call it'll be an egg McMuffin, is the horn of Valyr. So I'm going to be honest, I forgot this little bit from the first read. So I thought the Great Hunt was going to be reading this book. I thought the Great Hunt was going to be about them seeking the horn. So now that they have the horn, what I think is going to happen, I might be wrong, is that the horn gets stolen by some bad actors.
Do you have any guesses?
Some toxic males.
Hypothetically,
were
it to be stolen, who do you think is going to steal it?
I'm assuming they're affiliated with you.
Me?
Yeah. No. White Cloaks? No.
Actually, well, I mean, you see some White Cloaks in the Great Hunt. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we get more White Cloaks for sure.
Yeah, some of the best White Cloaks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Honestly,
the second or maybe third best White Cloak.
Yeah, honestly, not quite sure. Could be
All right.
in Fane, maybe, I don't know, or
All
maybe
right.
maybe there's a dark friend amongst the the ranks, amongst Aklamar's ranks.
I'm glad I don't have a camera on because I don't have the poker face of Pips and Nathan. So
these are some good stuff. I think read and find out. Obviously, it'll be interesting to come back, revisit your thoughts. It's honestly it's one of those things. So I read these books, like I read one and like read the next one, right? So like I really love watching you try and like process and like go through and like make predictions and think about things, because I didn't have that experience when I read it the first time. I just like was reading through these books for like the first, I think, like 3 or 4 books.
Yeah, when you first read them, how many books were out? When you first read them, Pips, how many books were out?
I've played this game before and I always forget. I don't remember what the first book that I had to wait for was. So I'd have to go back and look at the years that they were released and try and figure it out. I know that
because I think the prequel one came out in the mid 2000s, like shortly.
I know that I bought as they were released. I think at a minimum,
I think 11 came out. 11 came out in 2005.
The prequel.
I was watching Jordan's interview on YouTube.
Yeah. I think I started reading them like very early 2000s. So I had to wait for only a few of the books, but I had to wait, unfortunately, for the slog. I did have to do the slog wait.
But that was nice.
Anyway.
You had a whole like 7 or 8 books ready
Yep.
to go.
I did not have to do what some truly enterprising souls did.
Yeah.
Hey, I heard Enterprise again. Jeez. I'm just loving this callbacks.
I enjoy that you're reading these. It's like vicariously experiencing them again.
I know.
Yeah.
It's fun.
That's part of what makes the fandom so great with this series is like when someone starts reading it, everybody all of a sudden starts flocking around and be like, okay, and next. And so like you see all these series on YouTube where people are reading through for the first time. And I found myself
why do you think I chose you for, or why do you think I chose you, Pips, and Steve to be my co-hosts?
Well, like I said in our Discord, you're turning your channel into a Wheel of Time channel as the creator intended.
Wheel of Time greater than Star Trek?
Well, watch my channel and find out. But
yeah.
said.
Beautiful.
But you know what? It's one thing. I don't really play favorites. At least I try not to play favorites. I like a whole bunch of things. I do like fantasy, and that's something I just wanted to, get more into. And I feel Wheel of Time, I read it the first so Wheel of Time's not the first thing. Maybe it's my ADHD, but there are times where I just couldn't finish things, and don't misconstrue what I said there. But there are times where I couldn't finish movies, video games, and I've had to push myself to go back and read into it. Pips, I know you're laughing. Don't laugh at my terrible dialogue. I know it could be misconstrued in many different ways. None of it good, but there were times where I did revisit things and I pushed myself to finish. God damn it! And
I'm not even gonna do it. It's like T-ball. It's beneath me.
Okay, shut up. Sorry, I love you, Pips. Revenge for all the arguments, all the things I've said today. So, but it pays off for me to go back to something and actually get something out of something that I couldn't complete before. So, and I feel I want to do this with Wheel of Time, and now that I have friends that I can talk to with this about, it makes it even more. It gives me a greater incentive to do this. and I'm really enjoying these streams. I'm really enjoying the reads, and I can't wait to read The Great Hunt. You guys have said nothing but great things about it, and it's really, you said I didn't mean to paraphrase you, Nathan, earlier, but this is where you say like Robert Jordan really comes into his own at this point. So
it is Robert Jordan making, I mean, this was a good entrance for Jordan into the medium. But Great Hunt was his, I'm gonna kick this door wide fucking open.
So I'm curious if the subsequent books end on cliffhangers, because that's something that really kind of drives me to read more, is when things end on cliffhangers.
I'll say that I think it's not really a spoiler to say that probably 2 through 7 all have pretty strong endings.
Mm.
Like
okay,
at
least
2 through 7.
Okay.
A Crown of Swords.
Yeah, but they also keep the story going. They're not.
They do. They totally do. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that, like, if something that keeps you like wanting to read is you finish the book and you're like, oh my god, like what happens next? I think 2 through 7 firing on all cylinders. Like they deliver a really good punch.
Mhm.
I don't want to say cliffhangers, not cliffhangers, but like they don't leave you, questioning whether or not you're going to continue reading the series.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
They finish strong. They finish with it's a definitive ending, but they leave you with enough questions to want a lot more.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There was a reason I was racing to the bookstore to get the next book every year
Yes.
or so. Yeah.
One thing I thought was interesting was that the first 6 books came out within only 4 years of each other, kind of equivalent to Martin, how first 3 books of Song of Ice and Fire came out within the same amount of time. So it felt like to me it felt like those first 6 are really closely knit and everything, compared to the rest of the series where there was more time taken into writing.
Other than that, he was a very prolific writer, and that as he got more famous, he probably had more obligations outside of writing. He had to go to conference, conventions and do book signings and like all that kind of stuff. He probably had a lot more other things.
Yeah.
I've always interpreted that like he probably came to the publisher. He came to Harriet with like, here's mostly finished, like the 6 books that I've been spending the last 20 years of my life writing. And after that, he had to actually start continuing to kind of write. It's always been how I interpreted it.
Yeah. I don't know. I always interpreted that his first 3 books were almost self-contained, and then he had his entire story he really wanted to do, and he became much bigger goals and much more to bite off, much more to do.
Certainly in the sort of 9 through 8 through 11 period. Yeah.
It's similar to the music industry. You got a band that comes out out and they're a big hit, and they've already got this catalog of songs that they've written for a long time, so they can push out 2, 3, 4 albums without a problem. And then all of a sudden now they got to start really writing from scratch again, and trying to keep on that same kind of development path is a really difficult thing to do, and very rarely is it achieved.
Yeah.
And Jordan achieves it. Martin, not so much.
Oh
yeah. Oh yeah, there was a third McMuffin that I forgot to bring up. So since we ran out of McMuffins, I'm going to go with the bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. And this bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit is the banner of the Kinslayer himself, the one that the one that was big, the original dragon himself. So yeah, we get the nice little banner right there. Oh, McGriddle. You're a McGriddle guy? Of course.
Love the McGriddle.
McGriddle's
Too
the
sweet.
the
Too
pancake
sweet.
one, right? That's filled
Yeah.
with
Wait.
oh my
Yeah, too sweet.
god.
Too sweet.
Yes.
It's 3-1 on this one. They're
Yep.
Nerdporeal.
Well, I have unique taste. What can I say?
Sophisticated tastes.
Beneath
You,
me.
you are now the Nerd McGriddle.
God damn it! Now the internet's forever. All right, but yeah, so we get that nice little banner right there, and so going forward now, I mean, like the two big things is like I said earlier, Nynaeve and Egwene are going to go train to be Aes Sedai, and Rand's going to go off on his own because he does not want to. He is completely concerned about the fact that he can harvest or summon the one power with very little control of his own. So he wants to leave. And Moraine says, "Hey, this horn of Valyr needs to be taken to Ilion." And that's basically what to. I don't know if there was any other plot threads that directly lead into the next book. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, the precise point this book ends and where the next book starts is always a little foggy in my mind between reads, right? So like I can't remember exactly what things are said and happen and revealed. I think it's probably about the end of it though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
they get back to Faldara and you find out that hey, the gap was held and little stuff like that, right? But
yeah, and then Moraine, we got like a single page of Moraine's point of view, and then she's just like, "Dragon is reborn," and then the end of the first book of the Wheel of Time.
Yeah, wait,
even that little thing, the end of the first book of the Wheel of Time had a tremendous weight when I read that.
Yeah,
I don't know why. That's how I felt.
Yeah. And you get a little glimpse of what that little blue gem kind of. What she uses it for, and not even what its purpose is, because her purpose is she has the talent for it, but
that was like one of her earliest abilities that she learned, how to eavesdrop on people.
Right, but she's sitting there twirling the little gem, and I think I don't know if it's really specified in the series or not, but I think it's a little bit of a Angreal or Terangreal or whatever it is. It's not.
No, it's just a stone. It is a focus, like she says. It has to do with. So if you recall, this is. I mean, you'll find this out later, but it's not really a spoiler. So people who learn to channel prior to coming to the White Tower tend to have their own little kind of back pocket weaves that they've made, and they tend to fall into one of two categories. Sort of eavesdropping and getting daddy to buy you nice things. And that's how Varen describes them, I think. And the eavesdropping one is what Moraine has. And it's one of those things where, like, if you learn to do a weave a certain way, that's kind of the only way that you can do it. So messing around with her little stone thing as a child is how she's able to do it.
I'm curious if
so it's essential for her to be able to draw that specific power, to not to draw the power, but to execute the power in that way.
Yeah. So her eavesdropping or her eavesdropping trick is similar to ones that other people do, but probably sort of unique to her, maybe slightly more effective than other people's. And she needs the stone as a focus to be able to do it.
Gotcha.
I'm curious if Robert Jordan had any experience with stage work, either acting or writing, because he knows how to open and close a story in such a dramatic fashion. Just like Nerdporeal was saying, the way he closes out and the way he begins a book and ends a book with his more like prose like writing, it's it's elegant and it's imaginative. It draws you in, and it feels like a stage work. He's just an amazing storyteller.
I don't know the answer to that question. So
yeah, Well, good, but that's a good point, because do you consider the beginning of that whole thing, that whole line about, that this is the just another turning of the wheel, it was a beginning,
Yeah.
or do you consider it how he opens it with the prologue with Luz Theron leading into this poem kind of thing? Either way, yeah, he knows how to open it, just like with this. Hey, I'm going to throw this stuff in there, and then we're going to totally change gears into the first act. And by doing that, yeah, I've got my hook in you now.
Yes.
I got a question. I got one final question for you guys before we end this, or before I have you guys plug yourself. So, I was listening to Mr. Jordan said. Now, this part I didn't include in my opening, but this is something he does bring up in that little interview. Do you think time is linear, or do you think time is circular?
Like
In your personal,
story, or like in the real world?
in your personal, for real, in your personal experience, in your personal opinion.
Linear.
I think it's linear.
Just the idea of I want to believe it's linear, just for the idea that we can change for the better, that things don't necessarily, and this is exactly what Jordan brings up, that things are not gonna, sometimes things cycle, sometimes some certain things do, but I like to think we come out stronger, we come out better, and we just keep thinking forward as opposed to being stagnant. That's pretty much it. So, yeah. So, but guys, you guys were freaking awesome. This was a great beginning of the series. Now, the thing is, this is 14 fucking books. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this for. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do all 14 books doing this type of streaming and everything. I don't know what the future is going to hold.
This is now a Wheel of Time stream or channel. You haven't accepted it yet, but that's what it is. You're going to have to rename your channel to the Nerdporeal Reads Wheel of Time, and for the next 7 years of your life, you're going to be doing these streams.
But I have to say, I know Steve's not here, but I already said it to him. I'll say it to you guys. Daniel, thank you so much for being a guest star. I definitely want to have you on again for more shit. And for just to talk about, I'm trying to come up with different things to do, different streams to do. So, but once again, Daniel, thanks for doing this today. I know I asked you a couple of days ago. So, but Nathan, I don't know, you've been able to make these. I was surprised. I wasn't sure, you were super duper busy on Sundays. And part of the reason why I did this every other week was to give my ass time, because I'm a lazy fuck, and I need the time to to read the books.
Preaching to the choir on that one, man. I know exactly where you're coming from there.
But I'm glad it worked out for you too, because
it definitely does. And I'm here if you want me for a Great Hunt. I'll join you in a reread on that. And
absolutely,
I'll be on a reread. You'll be on a Virgin Voyage on it. But dude, this stuff is a blast. This book series is so phenomenal.
Streams?
Both. We're sitting. Part of this is we're sitting there. There's a bit of theory crafting, which I never really got to participate in. So hearing the thoughts about it and stuff like that is all a good time. But also getting to go through this with your perspective as a first-time reader is just a trip. It's fun. It's fun watching people get exposed to this and saying this. Even with you not having watched the show, which it's
you sweet summer child.
Yes. but that's all that more refreshing, and we'll go through the pain with you if you decide that you really want to go through that. God help you. But see,
Dempsey is a member of the Nerdporeal
yeah.
Continuum.
Oh,
You know how his life got improved. Besides the a certain ED that he mentioned before, his humor got better too. His humor improved quite a bit
Yeah.
joining the Nerdporeal Continuum. And if you're listening right now, you should do so too, because who knows what part of yourself, like the Venus drug from the Star Trek episode Months Women, who knows what aspect of you will be improved when you join the Nerdporeal Continuum. Sorry. I don't get this though, Pips. What's this? Brian is slapping his head for missing that stream name. I don't know what you're talking about.
Doe, as in the Wheelporeal of Time for the Green Poreal Nerdsaken. I think you missed out.
Oh, well, I highlighted it. I saw it. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunities in the future. You know, there's so many names. It's never ending. It's a never ending thing to identify. That's why I think it's funny, and that's why I'm going to continue to do it.
With every
as long as certain young humans like to keep doing that, I'm going to do it too. And you know what? That's okay.
Nice.
But Nathan, thank you. I know you were one of the few that wanted to, really got enthusiastic about me getting into it. So I really appreciate it. And of course, the last goes to Pips, the gentleman who's how long have I known you for? 4 months now. You through Steve. You joined my House of the Dragon stream. Those were excellent. You were on with us every Sunday, even when you were out of town. You still found a reason to come go watch the episode, leave your in-laws behind, and still do the stream with us. So that was I thought that was pretty crazy, but pretty cool at the same time. So Pips, I think I've had you every Sunday since then, and I appreciate you, man. This is the end of the year.
That might be right.
Yeah. I've had you on every Sunday. I really appreciate you being on my channel. You've been, it's crazy, dude. Like I can't even put into words how much I appreciate you. And I've probably said it for 5, 6, 7 times now. But I don't know, man. Thank you for taking time out of your life, out of your Sundays to, support my stream, support my channel with great insight, great dialogue, great everything.
Well, honestly, thanks for having me. It has been a lot of fun. I say this every time. Appreciate you bringing me on. It started out as a small channel, friend of a friend. Just heard you were doing House of the Dragon stuff, and I was like, "Hey, I'm really interested in this show and wanted to get on." And you were gracious enough to take me in. And it's been a blast. So I appreciate doing these with you, and always looking forward to doing more stuff with you in the future. And like these two gentlemen said, being able to go through the Wheel of Time with somebody who's experiencing it for the first time is a real treat. It's the closest you get to reading it for the first time again yourself. And I mean, that's really the dream, right? If I could go read it again for the first time, that would be what I really want. But I can't have that short of crazy amounts of drugs. So
maybe a 2x4 to the head that might do it.
Exactly.
like a cocaine bear.
But you said I know you told me you read it 7 times, the first book. Every time I'm assuming you read it, you found something new to take from the read. Right.
Hell, I'm farther in my current reread right now. I'm in Path of Daggers. So I'm not actually even doing this read with you. We're just kind of talking about it. I'm going off memory from, months ago when I was reading Eye of the World. And so like I'm not even doing this reread and doing this with you guys. I'm finding more things that now I'm gonna notice that on my next read and notice other stuff that I haven't noticed before. So it's such a fun book. It's such a fun series. You really, the rereads are a blast, but the first read is something special, and I'm enjoying going through this with you. So again, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, the big reason why I decided to do this was the fact that I really was happy with, even though House of the Dragon, my streams did not do so well, didn't do nearly as good as Better Call Saul, or even the Orville. And the Orville was fucking late at night. I was doing 12:30 a.m. After shows for that. But House of the Dragon, I really enjoyed doing these afterwards with you guys, and I wanted to keep this going, even though we did, the season was over. We weren't going to get another season for a while, and I mean, I watched some of Steve's old videos. I started watching White Cloak's videos about Wheel of Time, and I was like, I read this, and I was thinking, I forgot everything about Wheel of Time, or the first book, Eye of the World. And I thought, I was trying to read Lord of the Rings. I was trying to read Fellowship. And let's just say Tom Bombadil and the Barrow-wights kind of captured me and put me in the stasis for reading, because I didn't want to keep reading that. But I got past it. So I'm probably going to resume that during the Christmas season, get through Fellowship at least. But I really wanted to continue this dynamic that we started with House of the Dragon. And so I figure, what? Based on your guys' enthusiasm, I decided to start this Eye of the World stuff. And the fact that you guys got burned, just like everybody else, with how entertainment has been slowly devolving and everything. So I wanted to, have a nice, well, I wouldn't go as far as to say wholesome, but, despite the swearing, to me, it is a wholesome stream talking about what made Wheel of Time special, what made Wheel of Time timeless. And I want to experience this for myself. I mean, part of being Nerdporeal is to be open to new things, forms of entertainment. And I'm still trying to flesh out the Nerdporeal mythology. I made one video about that. I didn't even make one. I made one for my 100 sub goal, but I didn't even make one for 1,000. So I'll have to do that eventually. So, but yeah. Once again, thank you guys. This was great, and can't wait to resume this. I would say when to resume this, but I want to say that for the outro, because I might have made something in the outro. So,
Ooh.
And there might be music from a certain franchise that I really love, despite the fact that it too got tainted by evil.
Well, you can't say taint.
Yeah, taint. The taint
in
is
certain
not,
in certain
not a big
television
enough
shows.
word. Taint's not a big enough word for how I feel about that. So, but anything you guys want to plug? Daniel, do you have anything you want to plug?
No. I'm trying to make videos again. It's been so cold outdoors that I've been hibernating like a bear, so I haven't made too much. Put out something short today. We'll see if I can make some new things. But thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun, and I'm just going to parrot what they both said.
Everybody subscribe to Daniel. If you subscribe to Daniel, you'll make a Nerdporeal happy. His link is in the description. So Nathan, what about you? You got anything going on?
Eventually, I'm going to get off my butt and do my little. This is how season 1 should have been done. I think I'm probably going to start really working on that, hopefully, after the new year. But until then, it's just kind of hanging out, watching, and participating in lives. So, but just keep an ear out for it, and we'll still have some good times doing reading and consuming media that we love.
Okay. And Pips, what are the Children of the Light? What are they doing? What are you guys doing?
I think Dane and Alex are taking a little bit of a break towards the end of the year here with work, holidays, all that kind of stuff. So I think us as a team are going to be doing some stuff probably come January. That said, I've got 2 different projects that I'm working on, hopefully to come out this week, maybe next week, depending on how long one of them takes. It's that one's a collaboration with Dempsey, who's helping me out on some stuff. So we're gonna hopefully drop something there. Unfortunately,
You're not going to sing, are you, Pips?
Unfortunately, Reattempts Nerdsaken, I don't think you can actually listen to that one yet, or watch that one yet, rather.
Oh, okay.
It may have some Wheel of Time spoilers that you're not prepared for yet. So you might have to
Jam and find out.
wait and read and watch and find out. But the other one, I'm actually making a first attempt at doing a like actual scripted like content. So I've actually written up a script on a video that I'm trying to put together on condensing and coalescing my thoughts on the scourge of modern sort of franchise and adaptation movies and TV series, which is the Easter egg. I hate them with a fiery passion.
Oh, that's it.
And so I'm the working title is basically why Easter eggs suck. And
I used to like them. It used to be nice to see them, but the thing is, they serve no purpose. They're just there. They're just there to. Oh, remember this?
And they've also changed. That's one of the things that I'm going to talk about is that the Easter egg has evolved into something that is bad.
It used to be something just cherished by the creator. You know, it's like, I actually love this project, so I'm going to throw in some Easter eggs. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. Yeah, you've piqued my interest, Pips. That's a good topic.
So it's written up mostly. It's I'm gonna kind of work it around and make sure it's right where I want it, and then I just got to make it. So
sweet. So I'm assuming you will talk about in that video when you think the genesis of that change occurred, about how the Easter egg was used. Because I can pinpoint for myself.
Now you're giving him more to do, Nathan.
you are now giving me more things that I have to do. It was more a commentary, not a history. But now we'll talk offline. Yeah. You'll tell me when the Easter egg problem started, and it'll be a collaborative effort. Nathan is gonna give me the details, guys. It's great. We came here together on Nerdporeal's channel to make sure that my future content is up to the Nerdporeal standards, and we got it. We're gonna make it happen.
All right, so gentlemen, it is the end. I know you guys got to get up. So once again, thank you. Subscribe to everybody. Subscribe to Steve. Subscribe to Pips, Nathan, Man Manethrin, and Daniel, and of course everybody else who made an appearance, Lady Balefire, and of course
Alex, fellow White Cloaks. So
Alex,
just subscribe twice to the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make an alternate account,
unsubscribe, and subscribe again.
No. Make 2 email accounts, make 2 YouTube accounts, subscribe twice. Do this right. Come on. No, don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing.
So I'll say this. I do want to bring more people. I do want to bring more special guest stars onto. I want to bring people back, but I also want to bring new people on. So if you get a DM from me, that means I'm interested in you. So, but once again, let's just take a moment of silence for the end of Eye of the World and the beginning of an epic read for me. So can't wait to do it. And without further ado, I'm going to show you guys the outro, and that will be it. So everybody, stay Nerdporeal, take care, and let the wings of Nerdporeal carry you to great entertainment and great meaning. The fuck is it? Here it is.
Classic.
All right. 1, 2, 3, now.